open record, but the process is eluding me here a little bit, and I just want to make sure that we're all kind of thinking the same thing. So I think, you know, your job today is a simple one, is determine if there's a probability, something more likely or not, that there's a violation of the Code of Conduct. And then, you know, you can decide what you want to do from there. Do you go right to the county board? Do you look at this mountain of evidence that's been put forward there? The witness list that I and others have put together, the video documentation that exists, and determine if the charges are true or not. You know, to me, the allegations that are in here are clear that things are against the Code of Conduct, which talks about dignity, respect, of fairness. And you can look at the things that are alleged there, you know, including disparaging articles about people who care about clean water. You know, the harassment of county staff working on these issues. These are serious charges, and you know, yeah, this is bad conduct. And so, you know, the only other evidence you have to go on right now before you really did dig into the evidence is it likely that people like me who filed these complaints, did we perjure ourselves when we brought these things to you? And I think, you know, the answer is no on that. So, you know, in my mind, you have to find that there's a probable Code of Conduct violation. That's the next part of the process. Thank you.
Ray Reeser and then Mildred Neville.
Well, George stole a few of my talking points, but I will say, with due deference to outside counsel opinion on what our county ordinance states, we're at day 85, day 85. So by any measure, we violated the time constraint in the ordinance. The initial charge of this committee is to find if more than likely or not that Dave Peterson violated the Code of Conduct. At day 85, we failed to do that. Let's get it done today. I and others formally asked for Mr. Peterson to be removed as chair of Land and Water over a year ago. There had been concerns about his actions and his behavior then. And Mr. Chair, I believe you had sent a note or requested that Mr. Peterson step down. In fact, I know two other supervisors who stepped up and said they would be happy to take over the chair. In fact, my understanding is that Mr. Peterson refused to step down. And so that brings us to today. Nobody wants to be in this room dealing with this, but we need to do it. And so let's get the work done. Also, with all this testimony and the video and audio footage, it would be pretty difficult not to find probable cause. And if this committee does not find probable cause in this case, then when would there ever be probable cause? I mean, what use is the ordinance if we do not follow it? So it's time to get on with the determination and get back to the issues that the Land and Water Conservation Committee is charged with dealing with. But we need to do that with facts, accurate data, and with ethics. As a county, all of us in this room and all of us who are residents of the county, we deserve better than this. Thank you.
Mildred Neville and then Supervisor Jakowski.
First comment is this. I think this committee is aware that there are a lot of people interested in attending this committee. And once again, there are not enough chairs. That's back there. It takes a little bit of foresight to think about something like having enough chairs in the room for the people who want to attend. It takes a lot more foresight to conduct government business apart from that. I was really surprised to see that this agenda was identical to last week's agenda, with no further explanation for this first closed session item as to what is in the item. Vinnie Moresi, Supervisor Moresi, pointed out last week that it says in statute 19.85 that in addition to giving the exception that you're having a closed session under, and I think that's G, you need to give the specific information about what the exception is for. I didn't see it last time, I don't see it this time. Thank you. And I still have confidence that our government can do a good job.
Supervisor Chakowski?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. For those of you who don't know me, most of you do, I'm Barry Jakowski. I'm a 7th term, 14-year veteran of District 23 here in Portage County. And just so we are clear, I'm here to defend my colleague, Supervisor Peterson. And if it pleases the body, I would read a prepared statement, if that's okay with everybody. Thank you, everybody. This afternoon, I truly hope that you can see what these complaints are: a political witch hunt. It is no coincidence that one of the complainants is Ray Reeser, who Supervisor Peterson defeated in the last election by a 14% margin. The other complaints are all individuals actively campaigned against Supervisor Peterson in the last election. Multiple times in these complaints, it states that Supervisor Peterson is not looking out for the best interest of his constituents. Supervisor Peterson has voted in favor for every resolution or committee action that has come before the committee or the county board that supports clean water. One of the accusations is because Supervisor Peterson asked for more testing. Who in their right mind wouldn't want more testing? These accusations also state that Supervisor Peterson doesn't let professionals speak. Sometimes these professionals do not act professionally. As a prime example of this was at the second to the last Executive Ops Committee meeting, where these same individuals interrupted your meeting and heckled this body. This was bad enough that the chair was escorted out by a deputy. These professionals have also called supervisors names and allowed threats against Supervisor Peterson and his family to be posted on social media platforms they run. Professional Pete Arnson has called well-respected LWCC member a snake. Professional George Kraft has referred to 2 county board supervisors as the Butthead Brothers. These accusations also talk about Supervisor Peterson's standing up at a meeting. I guess it was okay for ex-Supervisor Ray Reeser to stand up, point his finger at myself, and shout across the room at the February 2022 County Highway Committee concerning the county's right-of-way clearing policies. This was not the first time ex-Supervisor Reeser did this. He also yelled at Supervisor Soik at a Finance Committee meeting, also yelling at Supervisor Matt Jakowski at an Executive Operations Committee, shouting, "How dare you open records request my UWSP email he was using for county business. Last time I checked, supervisors have the right to collect Portage County information no matter what email is being used. Hopefully you as a committee can see the forest through the trees and realize these complaints are politically motivated during an election year. This group has brought many unfounded complaints in the past. These are just more of the same." Thank you.
That's it.
That's it. Next item, closed session. Number one, enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85, parens 1, parens G, conferring with legal consultant for the governmental body who is rendering, or, let me start over. Conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategies to be adopted by the body with respect to legitimacy, allegations in which it is or is likely to become involved pertaining to the Code of Conduct, complaints, and process. Does anybody feel any need or anything? This is all as a placeholder. We put this in here in case we felt as a group that we needed to confer with counsel. If no one feels that, we'll go on to the next. Does anybody feel that we need to go into closed session? Everybody good? We'll go on. Again, that was put in as a placeholder, not knowing if we needed to consult as it is stated in the agenda. Number two, open session. Reconvene to open session for possible action on items discussed in closed session. We have nothing there, we never went into it, so. Number three, discussion and possible action regarding review the verified complaint filed by citizen Ray Reeser, Tora Anderson, Lisa Anderson, George Kraft, and James Walker against Supervisor Dave Peterson to determine if it is more likely than not that Supervisor Peterson violated the Code of Conduct in Portage County's Code of Ordinance, section 3.1.51.
So to aid the committee, I put together some note sheets for you to keep track of all of the different allegations. They are separated by each complainant. So something for you to take notes on. And I would suggest that you start with Mr. Razor's complaint and go through each of the allegations as shown on the decision matrix. And I would suggest that the committee just enter into discussion or however you would like to do that, Mr. Chair. If you would like to move the floor first, that's always an option.
Please speak louder.
Louder, please.
Can't hear.
So how do I put it on as far as a motion or?
Well, I think, Mr. Chair, that, we could read out loud Mr. Reser's complaint. Everybody has it, it's been posted. So I would suggest that we start with allegation 1, which is, an allegation that the Code of Conduct for Responsibility, 3.1.51 sub 1 sub A, serve with dignity and respect, receive input, explain actions, accept the result of each governing body's decision, and engage in continuous improvement. My suggestion is that the committee discuss whether or not there are any facts in Mr. Reser's complaint that would support the allegation that it's more likely than not that this section of the Code of Conduct is violated.
And the first one that's on here is 9.5. Land and Water Chair, Mr. Peterson failed to meet the minimum Portage County Code of Standard as outlined in 3.1.51 parens A, responsibilities, serve with dignity and respect, receive input, explain actions, accept the results of each governing body's decision and engage in continuous improvement. And I am looking for thoughts, as far as the responsibility. You have the complaint before you.
We're conferring. Members of the committee, just a reminder that we are looking at the specific allegations listed in the complaint. So if there are any references to outside materials, such as videos, things like that, we're not looking at this point. That would be something that would be looked at during a hearing. So we're looking at, is there enough in Mr. Reser's complaint to support an allegation for this first allegation under responsibilities? Is that clear? I would say that the last paragraph on page 1 of his complaint, going into the second full paragraph, is where the committee, I would direct the committee to pay attention to that. According to my notes, that is where that allegation would lie.
Where was that?
It's on the bottom
Oh,
of
right,
page
on page 2.
2 of 45 and the top of page
Oh,
3
that's
of
at page
45.
1.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
seeing that Mr. Peterson is here and we have these complaints, can we ask him questions?
No, this is not a hearing. This is the committee making its deliberations.
Well, I know, we see the complaints here by the individual people, but he doesn't have for example, it says, he stated that I control this. Can we ask him if he actually said that?
If you believe that is something that was said, and there, like as the gentleman before indicated, did they perjure themselves? If you think that is something, like I control this, is a fact that could go to a violation, you consider what's on the paper. This is not a hearing, we're not taking testimony, the committee's not asking questions of any of the complainants. This is to determine if you're going to either make a recommendation to the county board, or there's enough where you want more information and you want to ask questions and you would go to a hearing, and then that needs to be properly noticed. Does that answer your question, sir?
Stan. So, and again, being we didn't have the opportunity to go into closed session, and this is a completely new process to me to try and chair, I find myself, looking for, input as far as the direction on this first one to help myself and the rest of the committee kick this off so that we can go forward. But you had stated that the word that we should, or the paragraph, the last part of it is, I control this.
Well, that was mentioned by the gentleman at the end of the table. So, for example, the paragraph that we're looking at states, Mr. Peterson's violation is evidenced by his standing, screaming outbursts at residents and credentialed scientists attending. I'm assuming he's talking about the meeting on 9/5. Mr. Peterson also failed to both receive public input or explain his actions, limiting a reasonable discussion of facts, Mr. Peterson chose instead to categorically state on record regarding questions of false testimony by a county employee that I control this. What the committee needs to decide is what is fact and what is opinion in that statement, and if there are any facts that would support a violation of serve with dignity and respect, etc. That's the first part of the decision matrix. Does that help a little bit more?
Yes.
So just sift and winnow through that very short paragraph, what's fact, what's opinion, what you believe is fact, and does it support a potential violation?
So I have a question.
Yes.
So that he is the chair of that committee and he does control the dialogue that's going on, the proceedings of that committee is, I mean, is it warranted that he can make a statement that he
Please speak
controls the
louder.
meeting?
You can speak, please speak up as loud as you can, so, others, we got a full room, and so others can hear as well.
I mean, is that appropriate for him to say that, being that he's the chair of the committee?
That is a decision that the committee would need to make based upon Robert's Rules of Order, where a committee chair has the responsibility for keeping order. Now, whether or not how he did that comports with the Code of Conduct is for the committee to decide. So if that's a factor you're thinking about, that's something that the committee can discuss. Does that rise to the level of a violation, or is that following Robert's rules, trying to keep the meeting in order? Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
So in this particular case, do we think that Mr. Peterson, by saying that I control this, in effect violated the responsibilities Code of Conduct, serve with dignity and respect, and receive input, explaining actions, accept the results of each governing body's decision, and engage in continuous improvements. And that's pretty much based on that paragraph is what we have to use for information that because of this particular complaint.
Correct.
Is there enough information in there to warrant that? And I'm just throwing things out there, food for thought here, because I want to try and keep this moving to the best that we can. So, we got a long way to go.
But can we, when we look at these individually, I mean, because when you look through the whole packet, you'll see this same
We'll touch on the
referenced
redundancy,
again and again.
the redundancy of it.
Yeah,
and
so
when we check them
So
off.
when when I make a decision on this, can I look back at everybody's testimony, or I just have to look at this one right here?
I think it's the appropriate way to do this is to go through each complaint one at a time, because some will have other facts that others won't.
Exactly.
So I would say one at a time, that's
So
why I
when I
made
look-
the decision matrix, so we can do one at a time.
Okay, so just by looking at just this one paragraph and seeing just these three words that we're concerned about, then I would say, in my mind, it hasn't gone far enough
On that particular complaint from
Yeah.
Mr. Reeser.
for it to be a violation. That's my take.
And again, I want everybody to understand that it's the public comment and the rest of it. Our ordinance requires us to have public comment for all of our meetings, so we had the public comment. The stuff that we are engaged in is only the stuff that's in these packets and that is before us. Okay? So, we have basically on this, a 9-5, Mr. Reeser, says that Mr. Peterson violated responsibilities, and then he furnished this paragraph. And with that paragraph, do you folks believe that he violated responsibilities with that information that is in that paragraph? Is that correct?
That would be correct. So there would be two motions. One, I move that there is sufficient information in Mr. Reeser's Code of Conduct complaint that 3.1.51 sub 1 sub A was violated. Or the alternative is, I move that we find there's no sufficient facts to find a violation. Those would be the two alternatives. Someone could make one of those motions, the committee could debate it, or you could talk some more about it now. I don't know your process either way. Well, some counties, the committees will discuss your motion, other times, other counties will, committees will have a motion and then they'll discuss. Either way is appropriate.
Yeah, we would, in ours, we take a motion and then we have discussion and then we call a question.
Very good.
But I didn't know if we needed to, that level of formality with each one of these? Okay,
I
if
think
that's
to
what
make
you're
a good
recommending?
record, to make a good record, that would be appropriate.
Okay.
So, and that 9/5/23, when I looked at it, I think that was the meeting where they had the internal matter where Mr. Peterson said that's taken care of internally. That's not part of this. Is that what you're saying?
Not this complaint,
Not
another
this complaint.
complaint, but not this complaint.
Okay.
That's
And one other question.
That's where we have to keep them entirely separate and deal with
Yes.
each one of them individually.
In the 2022 ones that I listened to, they're only oral, is that correct? They're not,
We didn't start recording.
I don't think they're televised, are they?
We
Or
didn't.
not televised, but,
We didn't start recording until it was in 23.
so
Yeah,
when
we-
I listened to in 2022, that was the actual meeting. It's just that you didn't see anybody. It was just verbal.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, the committee's looking at what's on paper today.
Right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Supervisor
the
Pataki.
the statement, farmer stake president over signs.
No, I think you're into the next.
That's a different one.
That's the next one, Stan. That's another, that's the next, Mr. Reeser, has responsibilities again after this one. This is the first one. What's the feeling of the committee?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
it is appropriate under Robert's Rules of Order for the chair to make a motion to encourage discussion. So if the chair would like to do that, to get us rolling, that's perfectly acceptable.
I'm confused, in this statement, and Mr. Peterson chose instead to categorically state on the record regarding questions of false testimony by the county employees that I control this, and I think, for the facts that are in front of us on this particular one of Mr. Reeser's, based on what's in that paragraph, I don't think it rose to the, responsibilities, because, it lacks enough information in the paragraph. And my motion is that one, from Mr. Reeser does not, rise to it.
How does that?
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Is there any other discussion or thoughts on this one?
I think the hardest part is we have to separate what we saw in the video to what's here on the paper. That is correct.
That is correct.
So anything on the video, just kind of put that in the back of our mind right now.
Yes,
Because if we do that, then we're into a hearing.
and this has not been noticed as a hearing.
I have a motion and a second that the, first complaint of Mr. Reeser's, responsibilities on 9/5 does not rise, with the evidence that's in front of us in that paragraph, to a code of conduct violation. I have a motion by Supervisor, or Supervisor Chair Haga and Mr. Pazdernick, Resident Pazdernick. There's no further discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then the next one is right below that. Mr. Peterson violated the minimum Portage County Code of Conduct Standard and outline 3.1.51 A, responsibilities.
And Mr. Chair, just to clear up the citation, it's 3.1.51 sub 1 sub C is the actual code number.
And again, there is a sentence or a short paragraph after that. Mr. Peterson again failed to consider the effects of his decision on both the financial sustainability of Nelsonville residents and surrounding rural water owners facing rising nitrate contaminations, needed well replacement, mitigation, declining health, and failing property values. Mr. Peterson also failed to consider the well-established negative impact of AG sourced contamination on a county resource groundwater, period.
Again, the committee needs to decide, is that an opinion or are there facts in that particular paragraph?
I see financial stability, declining health, failing property values. Are those things in here, things that would be considered opinion or?
Or fact? That's what the committee needs to decide.
So, there's no statement or an example to support that? It's just an opinion. I mean, there's nothing else like the statement before. We have an actual
Could
quote.
you speak up? I can't hear you.
We have an actual quote on the first item. There's no quote on this to support what they're saying.
And again, I think what this, in this complaint, this is Mr. Reeser stating these facts. And he is saying that, that Mr. Peterson, by not letting those folks speak, violated the Code of Conduct under responsibility because it is, again, failing to consider the effects and the decision of both the financial stability of Nelsonville residents, declining health, failing property values. Falling, I'm sorry. Are those opinions or are those facts? Do we know that the property values? I don't. The health, declining health, needing well replacements.
So we have no example what he's referring to. There's no.
If you don't feel comfortable with it, then we'll move on. But I need a motion on what we're gonna do with it, so.
Quite minor.
Yes.
And there's no reference for that statement then.
No.
I'll make a motion, there's no facts to support that violation. Second.
Motion by Supervisor Laddick, seconded by Supervisor Rakowski. Discussion, any further discussion, or rest of you seeing anything else or agreeing with that, or any other clarification? Again, it's within that paragraph. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next one, Mr. Peterson violated Code of Conduct standards as outlined in 3.1.51, fairness. Promote consistency, fairness, and non-discrimination discrimination in county decision-making and customer service.
That would be page 3 on your decision matrix.
Right.
He's listed 3 and we're gonna do them one by one.
acceptable if we get you, Mr. Peterson, so we know for-
Sure, absolutely,
So, I'm gonna ask, I asked if we could have our statement read, and as you go through, you may wanna mark it up or write it down, what you think fact or fiction is.
I wouldn't call it fiction, I would call it opinion.
Opinion, okay, fact and
Mr. Peterson failed and has failed in past LWCC meetings to promote consistency, fairness, and non-discrimination. Mr. Peterson stated on record that, quote, farmers take precedence over science, end quote, evidencing a clear bias towards his own profession and self-interests over the overwhelming existing scientific data assembled by the WDNR, the USDA, UWSP, Nelsonville residents during quarterly testing, and currently being acquired by the Portage County Planning and Zoning Monitoring Well Program, recently installed in the village of Nelsonville. Mr. Peterson fails to encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making processes and support the public's right to know. Instead, limiting public comment to 3 minutes prior to substantive discussion of issues, and often cutting the 3-minute public response time short. In an earlier LWCC meeting, Mr. Peterson stood, shouted, and pointed at the public in response to a reasonable question by County Supervisor Moresi, quote, I'm just a farmer. She's just a farmer. Kyle's just a farmer, in parentheses, Kyle Gordon, owner of a CAFO in Nelsonville, end parentheses. We're tired of this. We're feeding you and we're trying to, end quote.
So Supervisor Pataki, here you have a statement, two statements. Farmers take precedence over science. Evidence of a clear bias towards his own profession and self-interest.
I would say yes. I firmly believe that science should be considered when it comes to any of these decisions that committee makes.
And then I dropped down, and what I highlighted was instead limited public comment to 3 minutes. That's our ordinance though. We have an ordinance on the 3 minutes prior to substantive discussion of issues. And again, a lot of times public comment is held at the beginning of the meeting. So I don't know where, unless the 3 minutes was talked about was at the beginning of the meeting, and then the input, the discussion, was later on. And that, per our ordinance, is reasonable control of the chair as set forth in Robert's Rules of Order. So, under that part of it, under that part that's in the complaint, the 3 minutes, I don't know, it says often cutting the 3 minutes public response time short. I don't know, and I can't verify it.
If it were true, would that be a violation?
Yes, if it were true. But again, I don't know at what point of the discussion was trying to take place. If it was during the body of the meeting, then it's not allowed. Correct?
Again, this committee chair can make.
He can allow it, and if he does allow it, then he needs to be consistent with it. But from what we have in here, do we know that? And those are things I'm bringing up for this, so that we have options to think about or to discuss to try and continue to move on. I am just a farmer, she is just a farmer, Kyle's just a farmer. We're tired of this, we're feeding you, and we're trying to.
I'd make a motion that he is in violation.
Of the fairness.
Correct. Well, kind of read the whole paragraph there.
Yep, and well, that's what so he's citing fairness, and then that is his information. So yeah, when you read the whole paragraph, so and as far as the fairness, how do you feel that he has violated the fairness?
Well, I don't think it was fair when he talked to the people and the way he said it, and it sounds like, I would believe that he did cut the 3 minutes short, and shouted and pointed at the public, and I don't think that's right.
And do you think it falls under fairness though, or do you think it falls under something else? Because,
well, it's, when you look at these 4 facts, fairness and responsibility, or honesty, respect,
That's not the charge in this one. It's promote consistency, fairness, and non-discrimination in county decision-making. So the statement, farmers take precedence over science, and then the quote of, I'm just a farmer, she's just a farmer, does that fall under, was it discriminatory? That would be where I would.
and I would say yes.
I would too.
so then, and again, I'm just so we know procedurally to go forward, if that's your feeling, then to make that, but to also then cite what it is or what you are making that motion or that recommendation on, so that we all understand. And I think that you're probably
Would the chair like me to suggest a motion to the committee?
yes, please.
Yes.
The motion would be, I move that Mr. Peterson violated section 3.1.51 sub 2 sub A by stating in a discriminatory fashion, quote, farmers take precedence over science, end quote, and quote, I'm just a farmer, she's just a farmer, Kyle's just a farmer, we're tired of this, we're feeding you and we're trying to. Those 2 statements would support a violation.
Got that?
I do.
That's in the form of a motion?
That would be in the form of a motion.
Okay.
That's what I said before.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Pasternak. Any other discussion, comments?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Rakowski?
My discussion on this would be, when I look through this, it's leadership of a chair and the expectations of the chair. Somebody as myself who has chaired many meetings at the county, I do have a problem with, addressing the public this way.
Anybody else have anything? All right, we have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next one.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
When we get done with this, then do we vote on anything? Where does it go from here? Does
Yes.
it go back to all of the
No,
supervisors?
it'll be one thing, because once we've gotten to this, we'll have to figure out what what it rises to, and then what we're going to make for a recommendation, if there is any, of what that is. And then it goes back to court counsel to draft something in the form of a resolution, if there is one, and then that would be something that would be brought back to be approved and sent on to the board.
Or in the alternative, you can decide you want a hearing, if you want, if there to be some,
So would Perry, the 2 citizens, Perry and I, would we be part of that or not part of that?
Part of what?
A
We're-
hearing?
Pardon?
Yes, you'd be part of the hearing.
You would be part of the hearing, yes.
If the committee decides that
Okay.
any violations that are found throughout the course of today, if it rises to the level of needing a hearing for a more egregious, reprimand, as opposed to like censure, or asking him to conform to the county board rules, but anything like removal from the chairmanship, removal from the county board, derelict of duty, that's gonna require a hearing, but we haven't gotten there.
Right.
But that's just a foreshadowing of what to expect.
So once we get this all done and we look over what we have and determine what the next step is, we'll determine whether we would wanna go into a hearing or not. If we go into a hearing, then it's testimony and witnesses and, yeah. I hope that we are able to come to some conclusion today is my hope, so. That's why we're starting at 1 o'clock today, so. And I think once we get going, hopefully we get a better understanding of what it is we're looking in here, and I think we'll get there, so. Yep, the first couple are very hard, so.
Okay, so we're on to page 4 of the decision matrix now, which we're still under fairness, but it's under 2B. It still is under that same paragraph we just looked at, which is make decisions and recommendations based upon research and facts, involve constituents, county staff, and stakeholders, and consider short and long-term goals. So the committee needs to determine, are there enough factual statements in that particular paragraph that rise to the level of a violation?
Before, you're saying this one is under, and I'm following Mr. Reeser's complaint, and I see responsibility.
Well, we're in
You're on
that,
page 4.
we're still on page 3.
Oh, you're on page,
You said page 4.
yeah.
Well, it's make decisions and recommendations based upon facts, involve constituents. So he listed 1, 2, and 3 under 3.1.51B fairness. So it's that paragraph I read aloud just a couple minutes ago. Number 2 falls under that as well. He's alleging he violated all 3 sections of 3.5.512. So we're going through the next one, which is make decisions and recommendations based upon research and facts, involve constituents, county staff, and stakeholders, and consider short and long-term goals. So that's still in that same paragraph that talks about farmers take precedence over science, and the quote about I'm just a farmer.
So in that, do you feel that he was involving constituents, county staff, and stakeholders, and considering short and long-term goals?
When I look at it, again, the statement, farmers take precedent over science, to me, indicate that he did violate part of the fairness.
Research facts involving constituents, county staff, and stakeholders?
Yes.
That form of motion?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Pasternak, seconded by Supervisor Pataki. Discussion.
You want to read the motion once?
Carrie.
Terry.
Motion was that he did violate.
Okay, I got it.
Yep, he's saying he
Got it.
violated
I got
it
it.
because of
Got
the
it.
fact that he didn't, based upon facts and involvement of
Got it.
constituents, county staff, and stakeholders, so. There is no discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, the next one is just below it, which is, Mr. Reeser's same complaint, but it's number 3.
Fairness. Encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making processes and support the public's right to know. We're still on that same paragraph.
I would believe it is the same thing that we've cited on all the other ones. Take a motion.
Motion for that effect.
Motion by Supervisor Laddick that he violated, number 3. Have a second? Second by Supervisor Pataki. Discussion. I think we've discussed this one, and again, it's just, it's what's listed under fairness, and it's 1, 2, and 3, and it's, seems to be all 3 of them, so. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now it's respect, and it's still on page 3, and it's just near the bottom.
I certainly can.
That one?
Mr. Peterson additionally violated the Portage County Code of Conduct Standards as outlined in 3.151, C respect 1, treat county officials and staff, county board supervisors, committee and board members, the public, and all other persons with patience, courtesy, civility, and respect, even when disagreements exist on what may be best for the county and its citizens. Number 2, refrain from participating in negative activity and communication, and refrain from personal attacks against county officials and staff, county supervisors, committee and board members, the public, and all other persons in order to protect the reputation and integrity of those individuals in the county. Mr. Peterson demonstrated recently and has demonstrated in past LWCC meetings his failure to respect public opinion and comment, often questioning the intent of the commentor or the validity of their statements, and using the same aggressive approach towards some planning and zoning department staff. Mr. Peterson questioned why I and Dr. George Kraft, a senior hydrologist, were unwilling to accept false testimony by the Portage County conservationist regarding geology, hydrology, and contamination transport. As a scientist and resident, I find this badgering approach unprofessional, counter to the best interests of county residents, and indicative of a profound misunderstanding of natural processes.
And we're dealing with, I see there's two here.
There are two.
So the first one is treating county officials and staff, county board supervisors, committee and board members, and the public and all other persons with patience, courtesy, civility, and respect, even when disagreements exist on what may be best for the county and its citizens.
Again, the committee is looking for facts as opposed to opinion.
One of the things that I see in this is it calls it testimony, and I don't believe that the word testimony to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but someone raises their right hand and gives testimony, or someone's opinion. And I think that in this particular case, I don't think we take any testimony where someone comes up and raises their hand and is on record. What they're saying is record, but it's their opinion is a record. Not how would that be looked at in a legal world? Difference between testimony and opinion or hearing, or
That's a tough one for me to answer. When looking at a verified complaint, we want to look at things that were said, when they were said, as opposed to a synopsis of what may have happened. So facts are the who, what, when, where, why, and how, as opposed to I think this happened. Does that help?
Yeah, I think that has
Testimony versus comment. At a public comment, it's public comment. You know, a hearing is where someone raises their right hand and swears to tell the truth under oath. So the word testimony in here is we use more in a legal sense, and public comment is not a hearing. It's the public trying to inform and educate the particular community they're addressing. And
I'm wondering if that doesn't fall under someone's opinion because they're calling it testimony, and it's the misunderstanding of what it is when someone is speaking at that level. It's an opinion, it's not testimony.
And I would agree on that when I read the statement. I find this badgering approach, well, that's his opinion when he says that. Not everyone might agree with that. So in this case, I don't see enough evidence here to cause violation.
Is that the form of a motion?
Yes.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor seconded by Supervisor Laddick. Discussion. This again is just on number one. No discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we have in the next one is we have Mr. Reeser as number 2.
Same paragraph.
Yep, same paragraph. It's on the bottom of page 3.
So we're looking at B under respect.
two, yeah,
No,
refraining from
refrain.
participating in negative activities and communications, and refraining from personal attacks against county supervisors, staff, county board, supervisors, committees, and members of the public, all persons, in order to protect the reputation and integrity of those individuals and the county. And this is under respect. And again, I see, as Perry had said, we're the same aggressive approach. Aggressive would be an opinion.
I agree, I don't see enough in that paragraph to warrant a violation.
Is that in the form of a motion?
Yes.
Second. Motion by Mr. Pasternak, seconded by Supervisor Rakowski. Discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The last one is neglected duty under 5915. I did not do a decision matrix on that one. I'll read the statute to you. Any supervisor who refuses or neglects to perform any of the duties which are required of the supervisor by law as a member of the board without just cause therefore, shall for each such refusal or neglect forfeit not less than $50 nor more than $200. And there's just a short one-sentence paragraph for 5915.
Supervisor Laddick.
I'll make a motion or no facts to support that violation.
Motion by Supervisor Laddick, because I believe there's just a sentence. I have a motion. I'll take a second. Seconded, by Mr. Curlis. Discussion? All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, Tor Anderson's. Thank you. Kick us off.
I want to take you off.
No, kick us off. Kick us off.
I'll get you started. All right, this one's a little more complicated.
Good. Just say good.
Okay, on for 10/24/2022 is the first section.
Yes.
I'm sorry, my apologies. Okay, during the October 2022 Land and Water Conservation meeting, Dave Peterson made statements about the quarterly residential well monitoring program in Nelsonville that were uninformed and completely false. I documented this and notified him at the time. He stated that the data collected for participants in the quarterly testing were full of gaps. Parentheses, as he is waving the papers around in the air, end parentheses. And he used this reason for not using this data set as a resource to guide the committee's decision making. As chair of the Nelsonville Groundwater Protection Committee, I have been charged by the committee by unanimous vote with correcting these false statements in correspondence to the chair and to the rest of the LWCC. The fact is, the sampling of Nelsonville's quarterly participants has been extremely reliable. Here are the facts. I'm not going to read the facts. I presented Supervisor Peterson with the above facts and more in a letter 10/24/2022 and clarified that there were not, quote, holes in the data, end quote, because many of the testing details he was referring to were for residents not in the testing program, and the program in reality had almost perfect participation. I asked him at the meeting if we can stop asserting that the data is flawed, and he replied, quote, no. He clearly is biased against us and is underlying untalkable, and underline 2. At minimum, he violated 3.1.41B2 for fairness, making decisions and recommendations upon research and facts. 3.1.51.4 for honesty, provide accurate information to officials, staff, supervisors, and the public. 3.1.51B3 for fairness, encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making processes and support the public's right to know. And 3.1.51A3 for responsibilities, being a prudent steward of natural resources. And I believe Mr. Anderson repeats each of those allegations, so we'll just go through we'll go through them several times to go over each one, based on each incident.
And the evidence here shows that there is a direct violation.
There is?
Yes. I'll make the motion.
And just to be clear, this one is under, for the first worksheet is responsibilities. Are we gonna go through fairness, honesty, or on this particular one because of the way it's laid out? I see it here.
Yeah, I went in order. I went, if it was 1A, 1B, I put them in order that way. But the committee can certainly look at them in any way they want. So if it's fairness 2B, that would be on page 3 of the decision matrix.
So Stan, and as you go down on this complaint, that's the first one, Stan here, unless you're saying you violated fairness, honesty, fairness, and responsibilities, I don't know if we wanna take those all and.
I think you need to take them one at a time because
Okay.
not all facts could support a particular violation.
Okay.
And again, we're looking at facts, not opinion.
So we're just looking at fairness on for the first question.
Yes, making decisions and recommendations based on research and fact.
Yes, that, as far as I'm concerned, what is here is a violation.
Of the fact, of fairness.
Yes,
I would second that.
and it's that.
I would second that.
And what are the, you're making that motion, Stan, but what are you basing that on? You need to have that in there. So.
I presented Supervisor Peterson with the above facts, and more in the letter of 10.422, and there were not holes in the data as apparently Mr. Peterson stated there was.
Do I have a second?
Second the fairness question.
Oh, so we have a motion by Supervisor Pataki, seconded by Mr. Pasternak. Discussion. There's no discussion, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, let's go back to the front, let's go to responsibilities so that we follow the sheet, okay? And it's actually the last one, being a prudent steward of the natural resources.
Lost me here a little bit.
Yeah.
So I've got Tor Anderson, our
Yeah, right,
worksheet in
yeah.
front of us,
Yes.
okay?
Page 2.
Yep. So I'm back on our sheet on page 5 at here. And just before the bottom of the page where it says May of 2023 is the word responsibility. That's Mr. Anderson's complaint. We are on the part about responsibilities. in the paragraph above it. So the stuff that we just went through, and Stan, we just voted on was fairness, okay? So if you look at the bottom, down here, we have fairness, Larry, or, Dave?
Yep.
Fairness, then there's honesty, then there's fairness, then there's responsibilities. These are all in the allegations. So now we're down here on responsibilities on that, because that happens to be the first one on the front of this worksheet, so then we'll stay with it, okay? Everybody agree? Right?
So that's being a prudent steward of natural resources.
Yes, in what's in that statement.
So are you looking for a motion?
Yep.
I guess I'd make a motion that he violated being a prudent steward of the natural resources.
And how? Cause that's the next part, the next question that will come with it, with the motion.
Well, and I guess I don't really know how to say that, but it sounds to me like,
I presented Supervisor Peterson with the above facts, and clarification that there were not holes in the data, because many of the testing details he was referring to were for residents not in the testing program, and the testing and the program in reality had almost perfect participation. I asked him at the meeting if we can stop asserting that the data is flawed, and he replied no.
Yeah.
Is that where you're saying he's not a good steward of, because?
can I, let me frame the
Yep.
motion.
You would like to rescind your motion?
I would,
Okay.
until I read this over again.
Anybody else have any thoughts? Plenty here, and if nothing else, if you don't, you know, and I have to wonder if you have to think about it that long, if there's anything there. And I think he stated that the data collected, for participants in the quarterly testing were full of gaps. Right? I don't know, I don't have the data, I don't have the sheet, I don't have the information in front of me, so. I think if it takes us this long, I think, we're struggling, and I would say that, there's not sufficient, evidence in here to, warrant, as far as responsibilities. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Seconded by Laddick. Any further discussion? All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on. Number 2. Oh, we got responsibilities on here.
No, yeah, responsibilities.
Got responsibilities twice.
Prepare for meetings, read materials, research issues, make decisions, and.
But I don't see that under Mr. Tor Anderson's, I see fairness, honesty, fairness, and responsibilities.
Okay, then it might be later. It might be later.
Okay.
So we would be moving on
honesty is in that first part.
Yeah, it's on our worksheet that we're trying to work through it to order.
I specifically call it out.
Right, but I'm trying to find it on this worksheet.
Page 7.
Page 7, yeah, honestly, page 7.
Okay. Providing accurate information to officials, staff, supervisors, and the public. So it might be a little easier. I believe that, from the statements I had read before, that they had, presented Mr. with the above facts and the clarifications, that there were not holes in the information because many of the testing details were referred to were from residents not in the testing program, and the program in reality had almost perfect participation. So, as far as honesty goes, providing accurate information to officials, staff, supervisors, and the public, I would probably say that, that was a violation. And I'll make that in the form of a motion.
I will second it.
Motion by, Chair Haga, seconded by Supervisor Pataki. Discussion. This is on the honesty. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That one, we voted on B2, fairness about it. Now we're on B3. That one. B3 is page 6.
Right.
Encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making process and support the public's right to know.
I think I would look at this as a violation.
And also,
by looking at the sentence that says, I guess by not including the sampling of the Nelsonville,
the statement about because many of the testing details he was referring to, or
yeah, that he didn't include the Nelsonville study because he felt it wasn't accurate.
was testing residents not in the testing program.
Exactly.
Is that your motion?
Yeah.
Motion by Supervisor, or Pastor Nick. Second.
I'm a little concerned that we don't have the who, what, why, how, as we're supposed to be looking at. Or might have seen it somewhere. Trying to getting lost in the forest here on some of this.
Okay, so,
Mr. Pasternak said, because of the fact that, many of the testing details he was referring to for residents not in the testing program, and the program in reality had also perfect participation.
So does that go towards the supporting the public's right to know? Is that the idea?
Yeah, that one.
So if we have, allegations that there were facts out there that, contradicted a supervisor's opinion and he didn't accept those, is that a violation?
And Mr. Pasternak has made a motion that it is. Under fairness.
Could you read the part of Tori Emerson's?
Please speak louder.
We should just move up front, maybe.
Other people need to
Oh,
hear.
wow.
You're a soft talker, Dave.
I guess.
You could bring your microphones.
Could you read the part of the Tori Anderson's allegations here that subscribe to that? I'm still getting a little bit lost between this and the matrix.
Are you talking Perry or?
Yeah.
Well, because we're talking about fairness.
And I need, and again, I'm being reminded that we need to have a second or whatever for discussion, so. I'll second it for discussion.
So are you on page 5 or 6?
We're on page 5.
Page 5.
Page 5.
We're
So
still
be
talking about the
2023.
10/24/22 incident.
And again, we're looking at fairness.
Correct.
And, when it was, seems to me when it was established that the data was good, it wasn't full of holes. And when he was asked to stop asserting that data was flawed and he replied no, that leads me to think that it wasn't quite fair.
Okay. Keep it, I got it, you got it.
Keep that right off of there. You got a motion and a second? Maria?
Yep.
Is there any further discussion? And this was again on fairness. Yep. If there's no further discussion, then, all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Did we miss one very good, or what do we have?
I think we're
on
done.
to the- We're on to the next one.
I think we're on to May of 2023.
Okay.
Keeping with tradition. May of 2023, Dave Peterson wouldn't allow my document correcting misinformation into the meeting packet. Following the May 2023 Land and Water Conservation Committee meeting, I submitted the attached document 2023-0529 LWCC divisiveness.pdf for inclusion in the next month's meeting packet. It was a document from myself and Village of Nelsonville trustee Mark Brueggemann, meant to address the misinformation that Supervisor Peterson and Supervisor Barry Jakowski engaged in at the prior meeting regarding Nelsonville's residents' desires and actions. Parentheses, or lack thereof, according to them, parentheses, to obtain safe drinking water. I was notified by Patty Benedict that Supervisor Peterson declined allowing the document into the meeting packet and that he invited me to call him to discuss. I did call him and asked why he wouldn't put this document in as correspondence, and he said it was, quote, negative, end quote. I told him I didn't think this document was negative, but I was correcting false statements. Dave said I made false statements. He denied that he said 77 wells should be getting replaced. I said it was recorded, Still, he said I misheard him. He went on to say, quote, "You got your wells, we're just trying to help you. You people are looking for things that are wrong. You're just trying to find things to criticize. Amherst isn't like this. That's a nice community," end quote. Even after making this offensive statement to me, I pressed him on what I said that was negative or false, and he never had an answer. It is not fair to not include corrections when he makes false claims publicly, parentheses, violates 3.1.51 for honesty, provide accurate information to officials, staff, supervisors, and the public, and parentheses, gives us no opportunity to respond publicly or correct the falsehoods, violates 3.1.51B3 for fairness, parentheses, encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making processes and support the public's right to know, end parentheses, and he is not prepared for the meeting with facts that have already been presented to him, parentheses, violates 3.1.51A1 for responsibilities, parentheses, be prepared for meetings by reading materials and researching issues, end quote. He accused, quote, "you people," end quote, of just trying to find things to criticize and implied we weren't a, quote, nice community, end quote. That's a personal attack and misrepresents who we are and what our intentions are and violates 3.1.51C2 for respect, parentheses, refrain from participating in negative activity and communication, and refrain from personal attacks against the public and all other persons in order to protect the reputation and integrity of those individuals and the county, end parentheses.
So on this worksheet, honest.
The first one is honesty.
Honesty.
That'd be page 7.
Page 7 of the worksheet. Provides accurate information to officials, staff, supervisors, and the public. One of the things I would like clarification from our two legal is the phone conversation that Tor has with Mr. Peterson of what we can substantiate. We don't know, or I don't know for a fact that what was said or done on that phone conversation.
Well, this is a and Dave, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but this is a verified complaint, so she's sworn that, or I'm sorry, my apologies, Mr. Anderson, he has sworn that that was said.
Okay.
Whether or not that falls under honesty, I would leave that to the committee.
I have a question. We already found him in violation of honesty on a previous motion. So
It's a separate issue.
Yeah, well.
So it's a separate complaint, so the other one was on a different date.
Yes,
so-
yes, so I'm saying, now that we found violation of honesty in one spot, we have to reiterate it again and again?
Yes.
Yeah, you would.
Because of the fact that the complaint
Yeah.
identified it, so
Yeah.
otherwise you're not taking the complaint and each of the items up.
Okay, so
That's
basically you're
complaint.
saying,
Different dates, different
yes,
facts.
you were dishonest this date, and now on this date, you may or may have been dishonest again.
as well. Yes.
Got it.
And so for the committee's, if repeated violations of the same code of conduct is found, and that can help the committee decide how egregious is it, do we need to go to hearing, what would be the remedy, under the code and to move forward.
Okay.
Okay, so in this particular instance, May of '23, we're looking to see if violated honesty, providing accurate information to officials, staff, supervisors, and the public. I think he violated that. And in that one, it was a document that Mr. Anderson wanted to have added into the packet. You believe that provided violated, Code of Conduct, providing accurate information to officials, staff, supervisors, and public. Just be-
Well, I guess I would just comment that, I mean, in terms of our ordinances, who has, you know, an ability under ordinances to provide a document to be included for purposes of an agenda item. I mean, there is a provision for the county board, but that same provision I don't think applies to the community level.
And the time.
So it may be a moot point, the fact that he didn't allow it if it was not a agenda item. And we don't know that.
With that, I'll make a motion that there's no facts to support that violation.
Of, honesty.
Correct.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Laddick, seconded by Supervisor Rakowski. Discussion. If there's no discussion, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next one is fairness. What page is that on the worksheet?
Mr. Chair, could you just explain the last action taken? I couldn't hear the motion.
That there was insufficient information in that one for the honesty claim because we didn't know if it was an agenda item that was being asked to be put on as on the document.
Thank you.
For fairness, we're on page 4 of the decision-making matrix.
And that's to encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making process and support the public's right to know. And I think, again, it falls to the same motion as last time. We don't know whether that document allowed it or not for the reason that we don't know if it was an agenda item.
I would make that motion.
I got a motion by Supervisor Rakowski.
Sorry, I missed that.
Second by Supervisor Laddick. That it is, lacks, supporting evidence. Little area. Can you restate your motion or it's?
It doesn't rise to the level of a verified complaint. With that being said, I think the biggest part for me in this whole section is that the chair of the committee sets the agenda. We do have a process for this. And as if you read further, that you'll kind of see how the process plays out.
So motion by Rakowski, I'm sorry.
Second by Laddick. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is responsibilities. Be prepared for meeting by reading materials and researching issues. I think that's an opinion. Page 1. I think that is an opinion where somebody states that they don't think that you have done your research. Be prepared for meetings by reading materials or researching issues. I can't verify that, nor do I know if that's a fact or not. If that's that sounds like someone's opinion in that statement. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Did you get that right? Any other discussion? All those in favor with aye? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Respect. And this one is refraining from participating in negative
May I
activity.
ask a question? My complaint talks about a attached document that I had attached to the complaint. And it's not, that would, discuss those questions that you had about.
As far
for,
There's an attachment, but it's the letter Mr. Anderson wanted attached.
Yep.
To the committee agenda.
But I don't have the agenda.
That is true.
So, Mr. Anderson's document, it is attached and it is in here, but I don't have a copy of the agenda, and that was the issue that they were talking about, was whether it was an agenda item. So it is in here, okay?
thank you for answering my question.
You're on page 6 of the decision.
Page 6 on the decision making. And it is, respect. Refrain from participating in negative activities and communications and refraining from personal attacks against the public and all other persons in order to protect the reputation and integrity of those individuals in the county. Again, it goes to that phone conversation that Mr. Peterson and Mr. Anderson had as far as respect.
The statement that he made, you got your wealth, we're just trying to help you, people are looking for things that are wrong, does not show respect to me.
In the form of a motion.
Yes, I think it's a violation.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Laddick, discussion. There's no further discussion, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next is 9/5/23. Oh,
I'm
I'm sorry.
6/14. 6/14/23. Dave Peterson still did not include my memo in the meeting packet after being asked to by Supervisor Olson. It was only after a formal complaint by Supervisor Mike Olson that the correspondence was allowed. There is an email from Supervisor Olson to the chairman. I'm not gonna read that email.
The date is cited, the email is included, but there's no violation that goes with it, unless I'm seeing something different. Okay?
There is no violation alleged, you are correct.
9/5/23. Somebody else.
Well, if the committee wants to make a motion that there is no alleged violation in here, then.
It's just it appears to be a date, there's nothing called out, it's just, I guess, information that's included in here, but there is no violation that's listed with it.
Continuation of the previous paragraph.
It's not the way it's stated, Mr. Chair. So far, every single one has had a narrative, and then this is the violation, this one does not have that.
Yeah. Moving on.
Nine 5/23, September 2023 meeting, Dave Peterson yelled at the public, parentheses, quote, "I'm in control," and parentheses, quote, "farmers take precedence over, in brackets, science," end quote, quote, "understand, should I have you," in brackets, Dr. Kraft, "removed by police," end quote, and parentheses, and kept interrupting our comments. During the public comment section for the September Land and Water Conservation Committee meeting, I was trying to provide accurate information and look for accountability from staff and supervisors. I was making valid statements about why I was asking the committee to not consider Steve Bradley as a valid source of information for evaluating monitoring well data. I was asking the committee to listen to valid science. I have the right and should be able to present the basis of my comments. This isn't anything personal about Steve Bradley as a person. I am against misinformation and that must be addressed. Wrong/false science must be addressed in public because this was all said in public. Dave Peterson is obligated to, quote, make decisions based on research and facts, involve constituents, county staff, and stakeholders, parentheses 3.1.51B2 for fairness, and provide accurate information to and be honest with, parentheses 3.151D1 for honesty, and, in quote, encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making process and support the public's right to know, end quote, 3.1.51B.3 for fairness. Instead, I felt bullied by Supervisor Peterson. I have reasons I believe the committee should not listen to Bradley's testimony, and I was not allowed to tell the committee my reasons. Dave Peterson was interrupting me. He claimed he was at a meeting that he wasn't at 5 years ago, parentheses, because he wasn't listening and he was inappropriately interrupting, end parentheses. He should not have attempted to shut down public comments related to this matter. We are stakeholders in a most profound way. His behavior toward Dr. Kraft was inexcusable. And then there's the statement where he swore to be true. So we're looking at fairness 3.1.51. B2, make based on research and facts. That would be page 3.
Making decisions based on research, fact, involving constituents, county staff, and stakeholders. So I have, in this particular case, just point of clarification for everybody that the question that was being asked was about, I was making valid statements about why I was asking the committee to not consider Steve Bradley as a valid source of information. Okay, this is something different. I was asking the committee to listen to valid science. I have the right and should be able to present the basis of my comments. Basis of my comments. I guess that under fairness, making decisions based on research, fact, involving constituents, county staff, and stakeholders.
I guess the committee needs to consider, it appears that this was during public comment, was he prohibited from making public comment, or did the committee just choose not to take into consideration what was said?
It says during public comment section in September, yep. It's trying to provide accurate information and look for accountability for the staff.
So a violation could occur if Mr. Anderson was told he couldn't comment, or there's a difference between being able to comment and not having your comments followed or adhered to or considered. There need to be facts to say that there. Do you have anything else, Dave?
No, I think it's just one, considering, this is under public comment. It's not offered as, as an action item. I think it was under just public comment about a report. It's the way I read this, but right, what are the facts of a violation for fairness?
I would think that if the citizen makes a comment that he or she should be able to present the basis of that comment. So I think that's a violation.
does say that he did attempt to shut down public comments, so.
It said he kept interrupting, didn't say he stopped them.
Kept interrupting is in the top sentence.
Well, on the last sentence, the last paragraph, was he should not have attempted to shut down public comments.
Oh, maybe down in the last paragraph. Okay. Well, we're on the first fairness, so that's the next one we get to.
Oh,
No,
okay.
yep.
So you made a motion?
Did you make a motion,
Made a
Sam?
motion, yeah.
And what was it? Restate it, please.
That, he did not allow the,
Speak up, please.
he did not allow the person to, he made a comment that he would not allow him to, give the basis for the comment that he made. And it was just shut down.
Wouldn't allow him to speak during public,
Yeah.
during the public comment section. I have a motion by Supervisor Pataki. Seconded by Mr. Pasternak. Discussion. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, honesty. Provide accurate information to and be honest with. Short statement.
Well, the whole thing for honesty is page 7. He's just paraphrasing it. Provide accurate information to and be honest with county officials and staff, county board supervisors, committee and board members, the public and all other persons.
I don't know if this violated honesty. I think it was covered under, I think it's covered under fairness, but I don't know if it rises to honesty. So I'll make a motion that I don't feel that this, falls under honesty. There's insufficient information to have it fall under honesty. Second by Laddick. Any further discussion? All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Back to fairness. How can I have fairness play? I guess it doesn't, when we cite fairness in this one here, because he's saying 3, all right.
Yeah, the next.
All right.
That'd be page 4 on the decision-making matrix. Encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making processes and support the public's right to know.
So now I should make the comment that I made before about,
Yes.
should not have attempted to shut down public comments. So in my mind, this would violate fairness, part C.
We have a motion that it does violate, trying to shut down the public right to know or public input.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pasternak, seconded by Supervisor Pataki. Discussion. There's no further discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You want to raise next?
No,
Oh. Is everybody good? We'll keep going?
Yeah.
Break. Now we're on to Lisa Anderson. Go ahead.
Page 13 of 45, there's a lot of information. I just, if with the committee's indulgence, I'll just go through the details of complaints. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 11 separate incidences.
That's in the first violation? No.
The first page, she outlines all of them and then goes into details, so I'm not gonna read them twice. So I'm gonna start on page 14, under details of complaints, complaint number 1. Details of complaints, sub 1. Supervisors conflated monitoring systems. Dave Peterson allowed both the farmer and his manager to speak at length, but would not let the rest of us speak at all. This is, the date is 6/7/2022. Violates 3.1.51B1 fairness, promotes consistency, fairness, and non-discrimination. 3.151B3 fairness, encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making processes, and support the public's right to know. The statement in support states, at the June LWCC meeting, many residents signed in to speak on the agenda item concerning monitoring wells in Nelsonville. As it turned out, the DNR required monitoring from this date was conflated with the proposed county/REI monitoring that serves an entirely different purpose. Kyle Gordon, owner of Gordondale Farms, and his manager, Todd Steitley, I'm sorry if I'm murdering names, were permitted to speak, but no one else was given that same privilege. I asked if the water experts could please speak, and we were denied necessary input that would have informed the committee's deliberations and just plain fairness in allowing all impacted parties to speak. This is not just the farm that is impacted by these efforts. Residents are greatly impacted and should have equal representation and ability to speak. This imbalance has occurred too many times within our county government.
And the first one is fairness, promoting consistent fairness and non-discrimination, and what's
It would be page 3.
You believe by allowing someone to have more time than others would be with consistent with not allowing fairness?
I would say it's a violation.
I would second, that's a motion.
Motion by Supervisor Rakowski, seconded by Supervisor Pataki. Discussion. There's no further discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, fairness. Encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making process and support the public's right to know.
That's on page 5.
I would say it probably falls under the same. I think it's not allowing for diverse public participation. Motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Motion by Supervisor Laddick, seconded by Mr. Pasternak. Discussion. If there's no further discussion, all those.
What's the motion? What's the motion?
The motion was that it was a violation of the fairness.
Okay, thank you.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, number 2.
Number 2. Meeting where Dave Peterson yelled at the public and supervisors that, quote, we are feeding the world, end quote. Violates 3.1.51B1 fairness, 3.1.51B3 fairness, 3.1.51C1 respect, 3.1.51 respect, and 3.51A3 responsibilities. Quote, we're feeding you, quote, is an excuse not to protect water. This statement reveals his bias and why Dave Peterson should not be serving on a committee whose purpose is to protect natural resources. He has a clear conflict of interest and is not putting the interests of the public over his own financial interests. This violates the Code of Conduct, which states a supervisor should be a prudent steward of public resources and consider the impact of decisions on the financial, social, and natural resource sustainability of the county and its citizens, among others. It is not the responsibility of Nelsonville or Portage County residents to bear the consequences of, quote, feeding the world, end quote, through the polluting of our drinking water. This sets up a false choice that is not based on science or in the interest of the public good. The following came after much discussion and after not allowing residents, parentheses, who waited to speak until the agenda item was reached, and parentheses, not to speak on the agenda item. Supervisor Peterson stood up, shouted, and pointed at the audience, quote, "We heard this all election," end quote. Quote, "I'm just a farmer, she's just a farmer, Kyle's just a farmer, we're tired of this," end quote. Supervisor Moresi tried to soothe Supervisor Peterson by interjecting that we're all part of the same community and, quote, "we respect you," end quote. Peterson continues to yell and point, quote, "We're feeding you and we're trying to," end quote.
And the first one is fairness, and we are on page.
Page 3. 3.1.51 sub 2 sub A, fairness, promote consistency, fairness, and non-discrimination in county decision-making and customer service. When it got codified, the numbers changed, according to David.
Okay.
So I'm going off the code that's on the internet.
Okay, so we're on page 3?
You're on page 3 of the matrix, yes.
Okay. Promoting consistency, fairness, and non-discrimination in county decision-making and customer service. Here you have a statement. I don't know if I would say, stating the fact that we are feeding the world is being consistent, promoting consistency, fairness, or non-discrimination, right? We heard this all election. I'm just a farmer, she's just a farmer, Kyle's just a farmer. We're tired of this. I don't know if that falls under fairness. I think it has other things that it may be involved in, but I don't know if that falls under fairness.
Would it be more under respect?
Yeah, but that will come later.
Right,
I don't
I
know
realize
if-
that.
I would say that in this particular case and the one we're looking at, I don't know if it falls under fairness.
I think it falls under fairness, but under a different item under fairness, not under, D1. So I would say there's no violation.
Under D1, there's not enough, does substantiate claim under D1.
Please speak up.
So, we have a motion that it does not fall underneath, enough to substantiate fairness under B1. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Rakowski. Discussion? If there's no further discussion, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I have a point of clarification. It seems like you're contradicting yourselves because prior you had voted earlier that it did violate it with the same, in the same context and same.
This is, and this is in a different, this is a different,
I I understand that.
There's a different, and we were going off the information that is in here, and this one is calling out number 1 of fairness. And I think there's 2 or 3 different caveats to fairness. It may violate one of those, but this particular one, this committee felt it didn't violate. Next item, fairness, and it is B3. Encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making process and supports the public's right to know.
That would be page 5 on your matrix.
Encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making process. I don't know if making the statement, we heard this before, I'm just a farmer, she's just a farmer, we're tired of this. I don't know if that encourages diverse and inclusive public participation.
I don't think.
Well, they were, the one part here, she goes, we were denied necessary input that would have informed the committee's deliberations. Well, I think in that sentence, I would say it did violate.
Okay. And, where are you finding that?
In, that, first paragraph under.
Oh, he has clearly, read it, please.
Okay, it says, I was asked if the water experts could please speak, and we were denied necessary input that would have informed the committee deliberations.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on July 5th. That was on 6-7.
You're on number 2 here. You're on
number 2.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh, we were down to.
We're on the second fairness, yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I may, the sentence in there, the following came after much discussion and after not allowing residents who waited to speak until the agenda item was reached, not to speak on an agenda item. That seems to me that that's the point.
I'm being told I can't, accept any of the public comment. I don't think it is, and again, I think that statement, and we're on number 2, right?
Yeah.
So I think that statement that, we heard this all election, I don't think that encourages any kind of diverse, public participation. I think it is a violation. And I'll make that motion.
I'd second that.
Motion by Chair Haga, seconded by, Mr. Curlis. Discussion. There's no further discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, is respect. And that one is treat official, staff, supervisors, and public with patience, courtesy, civility, and respect.
Page 6 of your
Page 6.
matrix.
You think that statement encourages, treats officials, staff, supervisors, and public with patience, courtesy, and civility and respect?
I think it is a violation, the paragraph, the last paragraph, Supervisor Peterson stood up, shouted, and pointed at the audience. We heard this all election, I'm just a farmer, she's just a farmer, Kyle's just a farmer. We're tired of this, we're feeding you and we're trying to, not so
motion?
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Pataki, seconded by Supervisor Laddick. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Respect again. Refrain from personal attacks, and is that on?
That's on page 7.
7. Refrain from participating in negative activities and communication, and refrain from personal attacks against county officials, staff, county board supervisors, committee and board members, the public, and other persons in order to protect the reputation and integrity of those individuals in the county. Do you believe that that statement violates respect? Or is negative a negative act? Or is it a personal attack against other county officials, staff, county board supervisors, committees, members, public? I don't know, that's a statement or an opinion, I guess, what Mr. Peterson is saying there. I don't, we heard this all, I don't know, all election, I don't know if that's negative. And I don't think it's a personal, I don't know if it's a personal attack. I'm just a farmer, she's just a farmer, Kyle's just a farmer, we're tired of this. We're feeding you, we're trying to, I don't know if those are attacks. Again, it's opinion.
I'll make a motion that there's no facts to support that violation.
Motion by Supervisor Laddick.
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Rakowski. Discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Aye.
carries. Gotcha. No, for clarification, Mr. Curlis, you are in favor or, against the motion that there's not enough information?
I thought there wasn't enough information.
You thought there was?
I did.
Okay. So we have, well, there's six ayes and 1 nay. The motion carries. Next is responsibilities. And that is number
1B, page 2.
the prudent steward of the public resources and actively consider the impacts of decisions on the financial, social, and natural resources, sustainability of the county and its citizens. I don't know if that statement falls under any of that.
I don't think so either.
That motion,
Motion, no violation.
Motion by Supervisor Pataki that doesn't violate responsibilities. Seconded by Mr. Pasternak. Discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Number 3, bringing in people with no groundwater quality expertise and promoting false science - Genesis Ag, 9/6/2022. Violates 3.1.51B2 fairness, makes decisions based on research and facts, 3.1.51D1 honesty, provide accurate information, 3.1.51A.A3 responsibilities, be a prudent steward of natural resources. Supervisors have a duty to act in the interest of the public good. This includes not having speakers who have little to no real expertise on the subject of groundwater quality. To include this presentation as if it was factual to misinform other supervisors, staff, and the public. It required residents to ask for accurate information and an analysis from Dr. Kraft and to try to get the correction in the public record. See 2022-0822 George Kraft Ag Review for Nelsonville Water Committee and parentheses for reference. These are a few issues from Dr. Kraft's analysis. I'm not going to read all of those. This is underlined, would a supervisor on the Health and Human Services Committee be permitted to promote and repeat misinformation on the source and toxicity of a chemical spill in the county? It shouldn't be allowed here either. The first one is fairness. That would be on page 4. Make decisions and recommendations based on research and facts, involve constituents, county staff, and stakeholders, and consider short and long-term goals.
I think that some of this, when I read it, is possibly opinion.
I would agree. I would think just because you had someone that you might not agree with talk at the meeting doesn't really violate fairness.
Yeah, I don't know, as far as being in the interest of public's good, this includes not having speakers who have little or no real experience on the subject of groundwater. To include this presentation as if it were factual is to misinform other supervisor, staff, and the public. I don't know.
That is opinion.
I think that's opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, just from what I read,
yeah,
it seems like. So I would, on this, B2 fairness, I would say.
I have a motion by Mr. Pasternak that there's no violation for B2 fairness. Seconded by Supervisor Jankowski. Discussion. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor with aye? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is honesty.
That would be page 8. Provide accurate information to and be honest with county officials and staff, county board supervisors, committee and board members, the public, and all other persons.
So this information that's included in here, these 4 bullet points, are those things that we can use, or are those?
Please speak up.
So the 4 bullet points that are in here, I'm wondering if we can use those 4, or if those are opinion, but they are in the complaint.
They're in the complaint, but they're, was it included in the agenda? It doesn't say. Is it just being included as part of this complaint in order to back up her allegations? There really isn't much reference as to why the committee should consider that particular document.
Yeah, and all it states is these are a few issues from Dr. Kraft's analysis, but we don't know what the Genesis Ag had said or was saying.
One of the other things I guess I would reference, for the chair and for the committee is there's comment about the public record. Well, the public record of a meeting is the approved meeting minutes. So, I mean, if there's talking about trying to correct the record of any meeting is the approved
Please
meeting
speak up.
minutes.
So, under honesty, provide accurate information to and be honest with the county officials and staff, county board of supervisors, committee, and board members, the public, and all other persons. Supervisor Laddick.
I'll make a motion that there are no facts to support the violation.
There is supporting document.
Motion by Supervisor Laddick.
I'd second.
Seconded by Mr. Pasternak. Discussion. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Responsibilities.
That would be page 2 of your decision-making matrix. Be a prudent steward of public resources and actively consider the impact of decisions on the financial, social, and natural resource sustainability of the county and its citizens.
I don't know, I look at this and I look at the paragraph that's in here and the one sentence following after it that I think is opinion. I don't know if there's much in here as far as a violation of responsibility.
I would agree. I don't see enough in this complaint to warrant
Responsibilities.
I'll make that one.
Motion by Mr. Pasternak that there is not enough, information, to warrant responsibilities. I'll make a second. Discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 4.
Number 4. Misled staff and public about an agenda item 10/2022. Violates 3.1.51D1 honesty, provide accurate information. 3.1.51B3 fairness, encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making processes and support the public's right to know. 3.1.51A3 responsibilities, be a prudent steward of natural resources. 3.1.51A1 responsibilities, explain actions. This is underlined. Why not tell staff the truth of what the agenda item, quote, Nelsonville water testing, end quote, is about? That's a question. I asked Jen McNelly before the meeting what this agenda item was about. Staff was told that it was included in case, underlined, there would be desired action resulting from Representative Shanklin's presentation on state available programs, and underlined. However, the only subject that was discussed was a proposal to do another round of testing in the village that would mirror the 2018-19 testing done by the county. Not coincidentally, representatives of Gordondale Farms attended the village water meeting just weeks before, asking for a repeat of the 2018-19 testing and even suggesting the farm could pay for this testing. The farm never responded, though, when we collected samples. And when Supervisor Peterson was asked directly at the meeting from where this idea originated, he said, end quote, kind of me, end quote. This agenda item clearly did not arise organically in Dave Peterson's mind, even though he was indicating that it had. Staff wasn't allowed to be prepared, other supervisors weren't allowed to prepare, and the public had received erroneous information about the intent of the agenda item and easily may have dismissed the need to participate. Transparency is the point of open meetings laws in Wisconsin.
Number 1, honesty.
Page 8.
Provide accurate information to and be honest with the county officials and staff, county board supervisors, committee, board members, public, and all other persons.
Complaint is about an agenda item, just to
Right, and
clarify.
I'm trying to understand here is that the, agenda item, and I'm not sure if I understand even, and someone else here, because it was put on the agenda, in case there was a desired action resulting from Representative Shanklin's, presentation on the state's available program.
I would agree that the agenda item said Nelsonville water testing. Well, that's pretty vague and could account for almost anything you want to talk about. I would think regarding Nelsonville. So I don't.
We don't have the agenda.
Yeah. So just.
I'm sorry.
So I mean, saying, just looking at what the agenda item said. I don't know if we can.
I think we need a break soon.
Say it.
Are you making a motion?
Yeah.
Motion.
I don't see an honest.
Is the, honesty in regard to that, Katrina Shanklin's report?
No, it's
Is that
just
what
on the
you're-
agenda.
It's on the agenda item, the way it was posted on the agenda. It's a Nelsonville water testing. But wait a second, I have a procedural, I have a motion by Mr. Pasternak that it doesn't, can you restate it?
It doesn't rise to a violation of honesty.
I have a motion from Mr. Pasternak, seconded by Supervisor Laddick. Discussion, Mr. Curlis.
Well, I'm not even sure when it says provide accurate information, I'm not sure what you're talking about here.
Yeah, it's.
Is it the Peterson thing? Was it the monitoring, well monitoring during that meeting? Was it the,
The agenda item was listed as Nelsonville water testing.
well, that must be the monitoring one part then.
And then it's, the fact that,
Well, if you listen to the tape, it was.
well, we have what's in front of us. There would be desired action resulting from Representative Shanklin's presentation on the state's available program. So they're saying that, they were covering it under Nelsonville water testing. It's a very broad, you know, and could someone make the argument that it's, we have discussions all the time about how to notice something on the agendas and to make sure it has all the information in there. That is difficult in some cases. That's why we refer to Corp Counsel to help us with that, to make sure we're not in these predicaments so that everybody is.
So do we have a motion?
Yes, we do. And Mr. Pasternak, motion, and Mr. Laddick seconded that it doesn't rise to, honesty on this particular case. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next one, fairness.
Page 5.
Page 5. Encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making process and support the public's right to know. This one, if that is in fact the reason for it, was to have discussion about Representative Shanklin's presentation, and it was listed as water, Nelsonville water testing. I don't think it is good reflection of, public's right to know. I would make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Rakowski. And again, I believe that it was a violation of the fairness because of the fact that, it didn't reflect Nelsonville testing, and it was there as a placeholder for Representative Shanklin's discussion, so.
And also, I look at the statement, the staff wasn't allowed to prepare, other supervisors weren't allowed to prepare, so.
Under fairness.
Yes, I agree.
All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, responsibilities.
Page 2. Be a prudent steward of public resources and actively consider the impact of decisions on the financial, social, and natural resource sustainability of the county and its citizens.
I don't even think this applies. Take a motion from someone then.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Jankowski, seconded by Supervisor Pataki, that it doesn't rise, to this allegation. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next one, responsibilities. Is that page 1?
Yes.
Page 1. Serve with dignity, respect, receive input, explain actions, accept the results of each governing body's decision, and engage in continuous improvement. I think this might be the same as the last one. I don't know if it rises to that. If it does, I'd be curious as under which one it would fall. Someone has an example? If not,
Make a motion, there are no facts to support that violation.
motion by Supervisor Laddick,
Second.
second by Mr. Pasternak. Discussion. No further discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 5.
Number 5, George Kraft corrects quote, confusion, end quote, regarding clay layers and trends after misinformation at a meeting in which experts weren't allowed to comment. The meeting date is 11/29/2022. Violates fairness, 3.1.51B2 fairness, make decisions based on research and facts. 3.1.51D1 honesty, provide accurate information. 3.1.51A3 responsibilities, be a prudent steward of natural resources. 3.1.51B3 fairness, encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making processes and support the public's right to know. The November meeting prompted a response from Dr. George Kraft. He was addressing the science versus the speculation and inaccurate statements made by LWCC members. Dave Peterson is the chair. It is his responsibility to promote science, not information or speculation. He doesn't allow expert analysis at meetings. They attempt to not allow us to talk at the beginning. And Supervisor Peterson has acted to disallow a factual rebuttal to the misinformation in the meeting packet at times. At this meeting, the county conservationist was allowed to say, without question or challenge from committee members, that the 2 high results in the next graph could be tossed out by scientists. The analysis he puts forth is the opposite of science, and there's a graph. There's a reference to an attached document, 2022-11-29, Dr. George Kraft, to Portage County Law Con regarding pesticide age dating, claytrends.pdf. You discussed at your last meeting 3 items which I might be able to shed useful light. It appears, the rest of it appears to be comments from that document.
First item is fairness. Page 4.
I think, Mr. Chair, that it is a violation. He doesn't allow expert analysis at meetings, it's actually to disallow practical rebuttal to misinformation in the meetings. And I think that, anytime you have an expert in a room, that you should allow them to give their opinions or their expertise, and which would help also the, people on the committee to make a decision.
That's a motion by Supervisor Pataki. Have a second? I'll second it for discussion.
Yeah, I'll second.
I got it, okay.
So-
Too late. Supervisor Laddick.
I don't understand, it says November meeting prompted response, it doesn't say that he was not allowed to talk, so did he talk or not talk? It doesn't really clarify that.
Please speak up.
It said that the November meeting prompted a response from Dr. George Kraft. He was addressing the science versus speculation inaccurate statements made by the Land and Water Conservation Committee. So it sounds like he was able to talk, but were we thinking that he wasn't allowed to talk? It sounds like he was.
It doesn't say.
Just disallow a factual rebuttal to the information into the meeting packet. Again, we go back into what's inserted into the meeting packet, and if it's discussion during public comment, it's not allowed. Yep. Especially not in public input, or
Sounds like he spoke. Can't tell for sure.
we have a motion, Marianne.
Yep, Happy, seconded by you, as a violation.
Right. If you don't think it's a violation, then you would vote it down, because we have a motion and a second that it is.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. If you wouldn't mind, I think it would be important to clarify that, I just overheard a couple comments here. You can't just walk into a committee meeting and hand out printed information. All right. Things have to be approved, to be brought to committee, so that they can be posted in the agenda, so public is aware that they are coming to the committee.
That's not what happened.
You don't get a rebuttal, Mr. Keller. There's no rebuttals.
No. So we have a motion and a second that says that it is a violation of fairness, and if you think that it is, then you would vote yes, and if you think it isn't, then you vote no, and I don't know if I seconded it.
Please speak up.
I'm conferring with legal.
The person who votes in favor cannot defeat their own motion, but the second may.
All right, is there any more discussion?
On item 5, it says Dr. George Kraft corrects confusion, so I'm assuming it.
Based on what's in here. So again, if you believe that he violated it, it's a yes, and if you believe he didn't, it's a no. All those in favor of aye? Opposed?
Aye.
Nay. Motion fails, on fairness.
Did you have an aye for me for violation?
Yep. You have to go, he made the motion. Stan made the motion, so Stan is an aye. Motion carries, it failed. I'm sorry, motion fails. Next, honesty.
Page 8.
Provide accurate information to and be honest with the county officials, staff, county board supervisors, committee board members, and public, and all other persons. this again is disallowing factual rebuttal to the misinformation into a meeting packet at this time. You believe that violated the honesty, providing accurate information to and be honest with the county officials, committee, and all, or public and personnel.
When I read that, I'm thinking, well, what is this part of George Kraft, that example of that not happening?
This was some of the information that he wanted to put in there to rebut it.
And it wasn't allowed? Is that what?
Yes.
That this Kraft was not allowed? Or was it? I don't know.
Well, then you would, I guess if that's the case, if you can't gather it from the information that you have here, then there's insufficient information in here to make a motion.
That's what I would.
So I have a motion by Supervisor, or Mr. Pasternak, that there's insufficient information for the grounds of honesty.
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Laddick. Discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next one, responsibility.
Yep, number 2, page 2. Be a prudent steward of public resources, etc.
Activities consider the impact of decisions on the financial, social, natural resource sustainability of the county and its citizens. I don't know if that even rises to this one. Anybody make a motion?
Also, it doesn't.
Doesn't rise, that there's insufficient information, or doesn't rise to it. Motion by Supervisor Jankowski, seconded by Supervisor Laddick. Discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Fairness. Page 5. Encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making process and support the public's right to know. Again, it comes back to where it's being inserted and how it's being inserted. Anybody see in here?
Well, again, I'm looking at,
Speak up, please, Dan.
this is a violation. He doesn't allow expert analysis at meetings, and at this meeting, the county conservation was allowed to say without question or challenge by committee members that the too high result to the next draft to be tossed out by scientists, that the analysis to be put forward is opposite of science. So this was a county conservationist, and, again, I don't know, it doesn't say whether, Dr. Kraft could put his 2 cents in there or not, but,
So I guess what I'm looking for is it encouraging diverse and inclusive public? Was the public hindered, in the county decision-making process, or support the public's right to know in that statement, Stan?
When I look at it, it seems to me that there was a violation. It seems to me that there was some effort to keep up some diverse participation.
You think that there was some?
Mr. Chair,
Mhm.
just for, some guidance, this paragraph doesn't specifically state whether or not people were not allowed to comment at public comment, or when this rebuttal was attempted to be, presented to the committee. I think there was a lack of specific facts, but that is just, looking at it from a legal perspective, it seems to be lacking definitive facts.
I think I would agree with that.
And it, has acted to disallow rebuttal of the information into the meeting packet at times. Not specific.
Yeah.
So.
Could it be referring to a different date even?
But you also, if he doesn't allow expert analysis at meeting.
We're talking about just this instance, so we have to stay focused on this instance and what's in front of us.
Once it belongs to the committee, there is no outside input, just like right now.
Right.
But you just did it.
You just said so.
Supervisor Laddick.
Don't shut.
Motion that there are no facts to support this violation.
Motion by Supervisor Laddick,
Second.
second by Supervisor Rakowski.
What's the motion?
That there is not enough information. Dave, is that what, enough information in this item? Facts, I'm sorry, it's enough facts in this one. And it was a second by Supervisor Rakowski. Any further discussion? All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
We have one nay, motion carries. Next item, number 6.
Number 6, made decisions to ignore the motion without knowledge or consent of the other supervisors on the committee, meeting date 12/6/2022. Violates 3.1.51 B2 fairness, making decisions based on research and facts. 3.1.51 D1 honesty, provide accurate information. 3.1.51 A1 responsibilities, explain actions and accept the result of each governing body's decisions. 3.1.51 B3 fairness, encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making processes and support the public's right to know. 3.1.51 A3 responsibilities, be a prudent steward of natural resources. A motion from the November meeting was made and approved concerning having staff prepare a budget amendment for resampling Nelsonville private wells at an estimate of $12,450. From December 2022 meeting packet with November 2022 minutes, there's an excerpt from the minutes. I'm not going to read that. At the December meeting, this proposal wasn't discussed, and Supervisor Lionel Weaver asked why. Ultimately, long after the meeting, P&Z Director Tim Reed responded that he was directed by Supervisor Peterson not to do the work. County Executive John Pavelski said at the time that he would veto the project. There still is no transparency about what occurred at the time, and this action doesn't align with Robert's Rules of Order or Supervisor Peterson's Code of Conduct responsibilities to, quote, explain actions and accept the result of each governing body's decisions, end quote. There is an appearance of collusion when Supervisor Jakowski says he talked to Exec Pavelski, and Supervisor Peterson says he talked to Tim Reed independently, but came to the same conclusion and decided not to bring it up at the meeting. The supervisors and FSA Rep Kathy Goop voted against a motion, parentheses failed on a tie, to recommend the matter to Exec Ops for review. Both supervisors clearly should recuse themselves from such a vote.
There's a lot in that one. Fairness. Page 4. Page 4. This decision-making and recommendation based upon research facts involving, constituents, county staff, and stakeholders, and consider short and long-term goals.
So if I'm understanding this right, this agenda number 5 was on the agenda, they just skipped over it and didn't address it?
To my understanding, they voted on it in November, didn't readdress it in December as a resolution.
But they didn't act, they just skipped over it.
Well, they acted on it in November,
Yeah, but
according to how it's written, and it did not come back in December.
Because this is referring to the December.
Yeah.
meeting. So I said, the December meeting, this was on the agenda and they just didn't do anything?
I don't think it was on the agenda.
No.
From my understanding.
It's not clear.
Yeah.
Well, it says from the December 22 meeting packet with the November 22 minutes. So-
Yeah, what maybe it was the
December
minutes.
packet or the
Oh,
minutes.
okay, it was just part of the November minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know if this falls under based on research or facts involving, constituents, county staff, and stakeholders consider short and long-term goals.
Without seeing the December meeting minutes or agenda, I don't have enough facts here.
Is that your motion?
Yeah.
Motion by Mr. Pasternak. There's not enough information as far as, the December agenda, correct? We got a motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Supervisor Jankowski. Discussion? All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next one. Honesty. Page 8. Provide accurate information to and be honest with the county officials and staff, county board supervisors, committee, and board members, the public, and all the personnel. This,
The issue revolves around whether or not an item that was decided upon was on the next agenda. Does it have anything to do with honesty?
and I think accurate information, it's probably,
But we don't have the December agenda, it wasn't included with the.
This is a joke.
That's one of them that it is.
Mr. Chair, are we all gonna be allowed to rebut things here?
no. Again, this is the, matter that is placed before us. All of these, and we'll have to go through them to the best of our ability.
Corporation council's here from Tuckahoe County.
So we are on honesty, and it's provide accurate information to and be honest with the county officials and staff, county board of supervisors, committee and board members, the public and all other personnel. Says in there it was, in the, bring the budget amendment to the next Land and Water Committee meeting for approval. But I don't know, and in here it's saying that it never came up in December. So is that accurate information, or?
We don't know if it got to finance, and finance shut down, we have no idea what's happening.
But it says in the minutes, the action that was taken was bring the amendment to the next Land and Water meeting for approval. This is from November 22.
We took action outside committee.
Again, are we all gonna be able to rebut things here, Mr. Chair?
Again, it's in the committee's hands at this point. This is a very long process and it's, very tedious, so, for everybody.
May the public ask a question?
No.
So no clarification may be allowed in the determination.
This is in the hands of this committee at this point.
Thank you.
What's the pleasure?
Well, do we not have enough information?
If that's your
Find
feeling.
a violation.
If that's your feeling, that's fine, that's acceptable. This is, on this particular one, and I have to think that's probably the case if you're struggling this long. So, if that's the case, then make the motion.
I guess I'd have to make a motion that we don't have enough information.
This is on honesty.
I'll second it.
Motion by, Mr. Curlis, seconded by Supervisor Pataki. Any other discussion? All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Responsibilities. Page 1. Serve with dignity, respect, receive input, explain actions, accept the results of each governing body's decision, and engage in continuous improvement. I don't know if it has anything to do with serving with dignity and respect. I don't know if it has anything, explain actions. Accept the results of each governing body's decision. I don't think that falls under here. Engage in continuous improvement.
I'll make a motion that there's no facts to support the violation.
Motion by Supervisor Laddick.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Pasternak. Discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Fairness. Five. Encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making process and support the public's right to know.
motion that doesn't, rise to the, violation.
Motion by Supervisor Jankowski. Second by Supervisor Pataki. Discussion.
When I look at this, seems to me there is some things in here that I don't find, I might consider maybe not fair when we talk about, Director Tim Reed responded that he was directed by Supervisor Peterson not to do the work. And then the county exec, John Pavelski, said that at the time he would veto the project. So I'm saying, I mean, if that stuff happened and it was never disclosed, I have a problem with fairness there.
Public participation?
Yeah.
You know, that's what this one falls under.
Yeah, I guess that's my, so in my mind, there was a violation.
Please speak up.
So, we have a motion and a second that, and keep me on here, that it did not have enough information in it, and Mr. Pasternak is saying that, he feels that Mr. Reed, and Mr. Peterson and Mr. Executive Pavelski, if that discussion took place, that it does not allow for public participation. Is that correct?
Yes.
I will bridge it all my second.
Otherwise you can just vote it down. Yeah, just vote it, it's easier to just vote it down. So, we have a motion, on the floor to, say that it's not a violation. And then, so, everybody's clear. Are you clear, Mr. Ladder?
Well, we've got two codes with fairness, so we don't wanna get too confused. Right?
Do you want me to read the one that we're looking at?
Yes.
With that, encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making processes and support the public's right to know.
None of that doesn't really apply to what happened in the meeting. Right?
But they didn't include that decision-making process in the meeting, so that's my problem here.
So, we have a motion that says that, there's not enough information in there. Mr. Pasternak believes that, it doesn't have, the public participation component in it. So if you are voting yes, you are voting that it doesn't have enough information. If you are voting no, you are agreeing that there, should have been public participation. Okay, and that it is a violation. A no is a violation, correct? This is kind of a wonky.
Yes.
Yes, okay, so, there's no further discussion? All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And the clerk will call the roll? You'll have to call the roll.
Carlos.
Aye.
Bukowski.
Aye.
Laddick.
Aye.
Jankowski.
Aye.
Pataki.
Nay.
Pasternak.
Nay.
Sorry, I'm just writing this.
That's all right.
Haga.
Nay. Motion carries, it's 4-3. Next item, where are we at now? Responsibilities. Page 2.
Steward of public resources.
And actively considering the impact of decisions on the financial, social, and natural resources sustainability of the county and its citizens. I don't know if this has anything to do with public resources, actively considering the impact of decisions on the financial. It's got a financial component in it. Social, no. Natural resources sustainability, in this particular one. Anybody see any of the things in here that violates this one? Motion.
I'll make a motion that I don't see any violation.
Motion by Mr. Pasternak, seconded by? Second by Supervisor Pataki. Discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Number 7.
Give an activist a cookie submitted by FSA Rep. Kathy Guth, January 2023. Violates fairness. 3.1.51B2, honesty. 3.151.4, respect. 3.151C2, 3.1.51A3, responsibilities. Supervisor Dave Peterson allowed correspondence submitted by FSA Rep. Kathy Guth into the meeting packet. This Farm Bureau article takes hits at Nelsonville residents as showed in colored boxes below. Bullet point, it is a lie / information that the replanted area is where the majority of recharge occurs for the village. Parentheses, my public statements. Quote, Gordondale's zone that keeps getting referred to is approximately 124 acres versus the actual recharge zone of 800 to 900 acres. Including 40 more acres added this year, end quote, end parentheses. Second bullet point. The article insinuates that Nelsonville residents are activists and following a, quote, religion of activism, end quote. Bullet point 3. The article claims that the farm has worked hard on conservation practices. Parentheses, little of what they claim actually impacts nitrate leaching, end parentheses, and residents. Parentheses, activists in their words, and parentheses, will just keep asking for more. So this is likely less about clean water than it is about opposing animal agriculture. This is propaganda that is based on opinions, not facts. This is a hit job on residents and an attempt to label us as activists with a religious zeal, rather than homeowners who simply want to safely drink their water. This is detrimental to our reputations in our communities and doesn't present facts, quite the opposite. And then included is, I guess, is a screenshot of District 8 News if you could give an activist a cookie. It's not really, it's not, you can't really read it. It's illegible.
So, the first one is fairness. Dave, what page are we on? Page 4, making decisions and recommendations based upon research facts involving constituents, county staff, stakeholders, and considering short, long-term goals.
I'll just as a reminder that under our Code of Ordinances, supervisors can request agenda items and can request items be included in packets, which is not the same as a member of the public. And Kathy Guth is a member of the committee.
So I assume this part that we can't read is the actual part that was in the packet that we don't have.
Yeah, that's in the packet.
Or
it's in this complaint.
Yeah. But I'll read it.
So under fairness, we have decision-making and recommendations based upon research facts involving constituents, county staff, stakeholders, and considering short and long-term goals. Do you think that this complaint, making decisions and recommendations based on research? I don't know if it has, anything. Talks about the recharge area, public statement.
suggestion for your deliberations.
Again, just including something in the meeting that someone else who might not agree with, I don't think rises to a violation. Yeah.
Also move there's no,
Please
support
speak
for
up.
this violation.
So I have a motion that there's no support for this violation. Do I have a second? I'll second it. Discussion. There's no further discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next one, honesty. Page 8. Provide accurate information to and be honest with the county officials, staff, county board supervisors, committee and board members, and the public, and all other persons. For the same reason?
I would think so. I mean, the person giving, that submitted, they believe that it's true. I mean, otherwise they wouldn't have been steps.
Or are you not allowing that person to have their public input? Are you hindering their public input if they weren't able to allow theirs? Right? I get, you know, I'm saying, that's what I'm saying is we went through this where we asked if the public was not allowed to have their input. Is this not someone else's right to have their input, even though you don't agree with it?
They're a committee member too, so.
Take a motion on that if anybody has. Been here a while, boys.
Also move there's no supporting, evidence for violation.
Second.
Motion by Jankowski, seconded by Laddick. Discussion. No further discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Respect. Page 7. Refrain from participating in negative actions and communications, and refrain from personal attacks against county officials and staff, county board supervisors, committee, and board members, the public, and all other personnel in order to protect the reputation and integrity of those individuals in the county. I think the biggest thing in here that I had, that I get out of it, and she says, give the activists a cookie, submit it, you know, as the heading of the article. In that part, you can really read below District 8 News. Would that be considered negative activity, by someone's right to put something in there? Again, if you don't agree with it, but.
I'll make a motion, there's no facts to support that violation.
Motion by Supervisor Laddick.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Supervisor Jankowski. Discussion? No further discussion? All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Responsibilities. Page 2. Be approved steward of public resources and activities considering the impact of decisions on the financial, social, and natural resource sustainability of the county and its citizens.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'm looking at those 3 bullet points. There is nothing in there that I can see that David Peterson did something wrong. He allowed the correspondence in from a committee member, which he can do, but there's nothing else that says that he did this or he did that.
Say he supported it or anything.
So we're under responsibility, so if you think
Well,
there's no information, if we're not.
I think the whole thing is should be just.
It lacks, well, we gotta vote on each one of them. So are you making a motion, under responsibilities that lacks information?
Yes.
Motion by Supervisor Pataki, seconded by Mr. Pasternak. Discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Number 8.
Same motion. Oh, sorry.
8, harassment of staff concerning monitoring well relocation, March 8th, 2023. Violates 3.1.51B1 fairness, 3.1.51C1 respect, 3.1.51C2 respect, 3.1.51A3 responsibilities. Supervisor Dave Peterson, and in parentheses, and Supervisor Jakowski, and parentheses, challenged Jen McNelly with hostile suggestions that she move the location of a monitoring well as if she was trying to bias the outcome of the testing. Peterson suggested that the county paid for REI consulting and now keep doing this, end quote. Jen McNelly modified her initial designated location for one of 7 monitoring wells in the village due to ease of access considerations. Both Supervisor Jakowski and Peterson insinuated that Jen McNelly was trying to modify the plan to alter the effects of monitoring results in some way. Additionally, Supervisor Jakowski seemed intent on suggesting that either Ms. McNelly had lied to him or he wanted to emphasize the mistake of which she reported to him, parentheses, he came back to this a couple times, end quote. I'm sorry, end parentheses. This creates a hostile work environment for staff and for the public to continue to witness and to experience ourselves. Supervisor Mike Splinter said to Dr. Ray Rezer, quote, after the meeting, I went up to Jen and apologized for the unneeded attack on her, especially since the issue was not even on the agenda, end quote. Parentheses, note that the most recent outburst by the supervisor was based on his claim that talking about false monitoring analysis was not valid under the agenda item, Nelson monitoring wells, end parentheses.
First one is fairness. Page 3. Promotes consistency, fairness, and non-discrimination in county decision-making and customer service. Some of this is a complaint about Mr. Peterson, but it says in here, additionally, Supervisor Jankowski seemed, and it's like, that's
irrelevant.
That's irrelevant, just because of the fact that this, and then earlier on, it says both Supervisor Jankowski and Peterson, again, we're staying focused on, the complaint is about Mr. Peterson. Promotes consistency, fairness, and non-discrimination in county decision-making and customer service. This is between I don't know if the customer service would apply. Decision-making.
Question I have had, if it was not on the agenda, how could it be talked about?
Unless it was a report by the department.
Correspondence or, yeah.
It doesn't say that, any of that.
No. Note that the most recent outburst by the supervisor was based on his claim that the talking about false monitoring analysis was not valid under the agenda item, Nelsonville monitoring wells. fairness? The wishes.
Do we say it's a violation because it was not on the agenda and they talked about it and he allowed them to do it?
I don't have the agenda, I don't know what action it was under.
Well, it says,
It could have been.
it says,
If you're taking this person's
Yeah.
testimony as true, that seems to be the case.
Especially since the issue was not even on the agenda.
I think what the committee could concentrate on is whether or not Supervisor Peterson's actions towards a staff member was fair, and alluding that she was making things up or changing things or doing her job improperly. That would fall under fairness. I don't see anything discriminatory here, but possibly fairness.
Mr. Chair, I just have, I kind of wonder, because the tone of this, if he was actually asking a question, or if he was actually challenging a hostile way. I don't know from.
We're moving away from the study, and we can't keep doing this, or?
Yeah, I mean, obviously if they're changing things that was previously agreed on, he would be, able to ask the question. The way the manner he did it, I don't know, some people get offended easy, others of us don't, so.
Doesn't speak to the tone.
No.
So what's your thoughts?
It seems to be, again, I read the whole thing, and later on it says, another person after the meeting apologized to her, so obviously other people at the meeting felt that there was some kind of fairness issue. So when I read the entire paragraph, I seem to agree that there was some.
I'll take a motion.
I think the other person
Mr. Chair?
was a member of the committee.
What Mike Splinter said to Ray Reiser and what somebody else might have heard Mr. Splinter say to Mr. Reiser in a court of law would be hearsay.
Okay. But this is not, we were told before.
Right, but I'm just saying that,
This is not a court of law.
This is not.
it's not, but I'm just pointing out that what somebody heard somebody else say, it should be what I heard someone say, as far as for a factual sworn complaint. Just for your consideration, whether you want to consider that or not. And as Dave is reminding me, the verified complaint says that the person has personal knowledge of the facts stated in the verified complaint.
So I would go ahead with my, do you have a motion?
No.
Are you making it?
Okay, I'll make a motion that it violated the fairness, E1.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Pasternak, seconded by Supervisor Pataki. Discussion. No further discussion, all those.
Question,
Yes.
is Mr. Splinter a member of the committee?
Yes.
Okay.
Have a motion and a second. There's no further discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Respect.
Page 6.
Page 6. Treating county officials, staff, county board of supervisors, committee and board members, and public, and all other persons, with patience, courtesy, civility, and respect, even when disagreements exist on what, may be best for the county and its citizens. I think we all agree this one was probably, one that was a violation. Take a motion.
I'll make a motion that it was a violation.
Motion by Supervisor Laddick that it was a violation, seconded by Supervisor Rakowski. Discussion. No further discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Respect again. Page 7. Refrain from participating in negative activities and communications, and refrain from personal attacks against county officials and staff. I'm gonna stop there. I think think this one probably falls in the same category as the other one, if I'm not mistaken, under respect.
Yeah, I make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Pasternak that it falls on, it is a violation, seconded by Mr. Curlis. Discussion. No further discussion, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Responsibilities. Page 2. Be a prudent steward of the public resources and actively consider the impact of decisions on the financial, social, and natural resource sustainability of the county and its citizens. I don't know if that fits any of these. If everyone would agree, I would take a motion.
Also move it does not.
Motion by Supervisor Jankowski, seconded by Supervisor Laddick. Discussion. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Motion.
That was the motion, I'm taking notes, there was no violation.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes. Motion carries. Number 9.
Number 9, perpetuated myth that Nelsonville residents don't really care about safe drinking water, May of 2023. Violates 3.1.51B2 fairness, 3.1.514 honesty, 3.1.51C2 respect, 3.151A3 responsibilities. Chair Peterson didn't let us speak to correct this nonsense. He and Supervisor Jakowski are disparaging our character and our intentions. They ignored all testimony from prior meetings and communications as to the facts. The gist of the conversation is suggesting that people don't really want to solve their problem of unsafe drinking water. If they did, all 77 wells in the village would be replaced. The following was known to them prior to this conversation. Bullet point, well drillers weren't responsive to residents' calls. Bullet point, 1 well driller was dissuading callers from installing new wells. Bullet point, of the 77 wells, about half don't qualify because they hadn't tested over the limit. 77 was never possible. Bullet point, some homeowners didn't qualify because of income limitations. Bullet point, some homeowners were at different stages of the process. Chair Peterson, quote, how many wells have been replaced, specifically in the Nelsonville area? Because all the wells in Portage County, only 7 exceeded, which there should be more than that. Only 32 have applied for anything, so it's like the essence to get applied to it to get the funding in the first place. So I think there'd be a higher, and then there's an ellipsis, end quote. There's a comment from quoting Supervisor Jakowski. I will not read that. Chair Peterson, quote, you would think almost all 77 in brackets total private wells in Nelsonville end brackets would apply when you're going to get almost a full reimbursement. So I guess we'll have to keep a watch on that a little bit too, end quote.
First one is fairness, page 4. Making decisions and recommendations based upon research, facts involving constituents, county staff, stakeholders, and considering short and long-term goals. Some of this is opinion. Yeah. In the first paragraph, how many wells have been replaced, and Mr. Jakowski's stuff is not pertinent because this isn't about him, it's about Mr. Peterson. I don't know if there was a decision to be made here.
Yeah, I don't see enough information there.
So, is that the motion?
Yeah.
Motion by Mr. Pasternak that there's not enough information, seconded by Supervisor Rakowski. Discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Honesty. Page 8. provide accurate information to and be honest with the county officials, staff, county board supervisors, committee, board members, and the public, and all other persons.
When I read this, it seems to me it's just conversation. People just giving their thoughts on these ideas, about the wells and well drillers and homeowners. I mean, they're just conversation. I don't see enough information.
Is that another motion?
Yeah.
Motion by Mr. Pasternak that there's not enough information. Second by Supervisor Laddick, discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Respect. Page 7 again. Refrain from participating in negative activities and communication, and refrain from personal attacks against county officials, staff, county board supervisor, committee, board members, and the public, and all other personnel, in order to protect the reputation and integrity of those individuals in the county. Same thing apply, Perry?
Yes.
I'll make a motion for violation.
Make a motion that there's no violation, seconded by? I'll second it. Discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Responsibilities. 2. Be a prudent steward of the public resources and actively consider the impact of decisions on the financial, social, and natural resource sustainability of the county and its citizens. Anybody think this one rose to that? Make a motion.
That there are no facts to support the violation.
Motion that there's no facts to sustain the violation. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 10.
Number 10, not including our letters in correspondence, parentheses, July 2023, and parentheses, Fred Anderson, Nelsonville Groundwater Protection Committee Chair, correspondence denied, included only after complaint from Mike Olson, and parentheses, but allowing propaganda and attacks on residents in parentheses, January 2023, quote, given activists a cookie, end quote, submitted by FSA rep and LWCC member Kathy Guth. Violates 3.151B1 fairness, 3.151B3 fairness. This tactic continues to silence the public and keep the truth out of the public record.
Page 3. Promotes consistency, fairness, and non-discrimination in county decision-making and customer service. This one is only a few sentences, so this one should be fairly simple.
We reiterated before that committee members are allowed to insert correspondence, but the public is not. So I would say no facts to support this violation.
Motion by Supervisor Laddick. Second by Mr. Pasternak. Discussion. All those in favor with aye? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Page 5. Fairness. Encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making process and supports public right to know. And then it was included later on. After it was requested by the supervisor.
I'll make a motion, no facts to support the violation.
Motion by Supervisor Laddick, seconded by Supervisor Pataki, that there's no violation. Discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Number 11.
Number 11, quote, "I'm in control," end quote, outburst, and quote, "How do you know," parentheses, "what Steve said was false," end parentheses, end quote, to Dr. Ray Rezer. Threats to have Dr. George Kraft removed by police. Date of meeting, 9/5/2023. Violates fairness, 3.1.51B1, 3.51B3 fairness, 3.1.51C1 respect, 3.51C2 respect, 3.1.51A3 responsibilities. Last meeting, Dave Peterson continually interrupted the citizens who signed up to speak during the public comment period. He suggested any comments concerning the prior meeting's flawed analysis of monitoring wells wasn't on the agenda, and he wasn't going to allow us to address that. Supervisor Peterson yelled at Dr. George Kraft and threatened to have him removed by police. Parentheses, contrast this behavior with the meeting when he lied to staff about the point of an agenda item and talked about something far different than what he told staff. Parentheses, 10/22/22, parentheses. In this meeting, the agenda item was, quote, "Nelsonville monitoring wells," end quote. It can't be the intent of the Code of Content that the public and experts are shut out of the conversation regarding false statements made about the monitoring well results by a person who logically should be knowledgeable about some level of science around groundwater quality. Parentheses, that's what, quote, "county conservationist," end quote, implies, end parentheses, where that person is not the staff member assigned to the project, has overstepped his area of expertise and his coworkers' stated objective and timeline. This misinformation was presented publicly, and the public has a right to know how this problem was corrected. Not doing so violates Code of Conduct 3.1.51B3 fairness. Encourage diverse and inclusive public participation in the county's decision-making processes and support the public's right to know. In addition, by refusing to accept the input of expert hydrologists such as Dr. Kraft, whose extensive training is squarely focused on groundwater issues, Mr. Peterson has failed to fulfill his duty under State Statute 92.02 and deserves to be removed from office. Peterson angrily questioned why Dr. Ray Rezer, parentheses, also an expert on geology, end parentheses, would know that what Steve Bradley said wasn't accurate, parentheses, which shows that he still believes what Bradley says was accurate, and yet the public should trust that the matter has been dealt with appropriately internally. Peterson also said that Bradley wasn't present for HR meetings, which strains credulity, end parentheses. Kathy Guth, quote, "Oh, for Christ's sake," end quote, in parentheses, in response to Dr. Rezer's answer for Supervisor Peterson that he knows what is accurate because he's a scientist. Dave Peterson yells, quote, "She's a farmer and that takes precedence over it," end quote. Quote, "Farmers take precedence over science," end quote. Both Supervisors Peterson and Jakowski kept interrupting the public's 3 minutes of comment. There it is, quote, "Farmers take precedence over science," end quote. This has been obvious to anyone who has been paying attention. On its face, it is such an absurd claim, but it also reflects how Mr. Peterson fails in his duties by always creating an adversarial atmosphere to the meetings. We are one community and we all want what is best for our families. We aren't looking to fight, shut down farms, etc. We are in this together. Enough of Peterson's divisiveness. This statement violates every principle set forth in Portage County Code of Conduct Ordinance 3.1.51. And then there's a statement on the verified complaint.
Fairness, page 3. Promotes consistency, fairness, and non-discrimination in county decision-making and customer service. There's a lot in here, because it goes on. What particular item are we talking about? Because I think there's a couple things in the complaint. So.
If I could provide a couple of points for the committee to consider. I believe the code of the county board rules on public comment is that supervisors are not to interrupt and there should be no discussion. Number two, I believe in public comment that there is a provision that internal personnel matters are not discussed during public comment. So those are two things that could guide the committee in its deliberations on this particular complaint, section of the complaint.
And I don't know if that particular part falls later on when they talk about fairness, because it's the statements made before that about the public, misinformation was presented publicly, and the public has the right to know how this problem was corrected. And in our ordinance 3.1.48, public comments on all committees, boards, commissions, councils, authority, meeting agenda. The following items shall appear. Members of the public who wish to address the committee, board, commission, council, authorities on specific agenda items must register a request at this time with such comments subject to reasonable control of the committee, board, commission, council, authority, chair as set forth in Robert's Rules of Order. Letter G, public comment is not permitted on personal matters, legal cases, nor matters that are the subject of judicial or quasi-judicial hearings, period. So we have, promote consistency, fairness, non-discrimination in county decision-making and customer service. Anybody have any thoughts on this one?
I think you have a violation, I don't know if it's on this fairness or the next one, as far as the kept interrupting the public 3 minutes of comments.
Which is the other fairness, what page?
It would be page 5.
Page 5. That one is inclusive of public, participation, I think they'll probably fall under that one, right? You agree?
Yes.
Where are we on? We're on the other one though, promoting consistency, fairness, and non-discrimination of the county's decision-making and customer service. I don't know if I think there's enough in there for that one and under fairness in this particular case. I will make that motion, but I don't believe there's enough in this one for fairness under this. Motion by, Haga, seconded by Pasternak. Discussion.
Yeah, I would just say that I believe the infraction would fall under the other.
Nice fairness.
Fairness.
Okay. There's no other discussion, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next fairness, anything on page 5, Larry?
I will make a motion to say this rises to a violation.
Second.
Motion by Rakowski, seconded by Laddick. Discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next one is respect.
I believe that one's on page 6.
Page 6. Keep county officials, staff, county board supervisors, committee and board members, and the public and all other personnel with patience, courtesy, civility, and respect, even when disagreements exist on what may be best for the county and its citizens. This one might be second, very close. Motion by our Supervisor Laddick.
Yeah, I think this does rise to the, case for a violation, so I think the facts support that.
Motion.
Would that be the threat to have Dr. Kraft removed? Or is there a different
I
fact?
think he's talking about the interrupting.
Interruptions.
Interrupting?
Interruptions, yeah.
Okay, good. Motion by Supervisor Laddick. Seconded by Mr. Curlis. Discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Respect again. Page 7. Refrain from participating in negative activities and communication, and refrain from personal attacks against county officials, staff, county board of supervisors, committee, board members, the public, and all other personnel in order to protect the reputation and integrity of those individuals in the county.
Motion is a violation.
I have a motion by Supervisor Pataki that it is a violation.
Under what facts, Mr. Chair?
Well, disrespect to the citizens by cutting them off or
Interrupting them.
them.
During public input. I have a motion by Supervisor Pataki, second by Supervisor Laddick. Discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Responsibilities.
Page 2.
Page 2. Be a prudent steward of public resources and actively considering the impact of the decisions on the financial, social, and natural resources sustainability of the county and its citizens. I don't know if this is anything there that warrants that. If anybody feels that, I'll take a motion.
I don't feel it is, so I'll make motion, no facts to support the violation.
Motion, there's no facts to support the violation. Motion by Laddick.
Second.
Seconded by Rakowski. Discussion. No further discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item. Oh, I'm sorry. There's one more on the back here yet. But, do we need to address this one? It's kind of what we talked about earlier. It's listed, so.
It's the same. It's the same.
It's the same section.
Yeah, it's the same section under the same number. So
The same complaint. Is it redundant?
Could be.
It's B3 in the front here too, and it's B3 on the back.
The only difference would be cited a different reason.
But it's not under another complaint, it's all under the same complaint.
Yeah.
Number 11.
I have that interrupting, I had in my notes, and I could be wrong, but for the first fairness, under 2C, encourage diverse and inclusive public participation. I have writing down that interrupting during public comments is a violation. This talks about, this particular section talks about the public wanting to know how the issue with the county conservationist was handled. So that's what, Mr. Chair, what you read as far as public comment is not permitted on
So you do want to-
personnel matters, so I think that would be a separate,
We need to act on this one as well?
yes.
Okay. So this one is to deal with the, presenting public, and the public has the right to know the problem was corrected. And that's where I read the, ordinance that doesn't allow during public input, for matters. Public comment is not permitted on personnel matters, legal cases, nor matters that are subject to judicial or quasi-judicial hearing.
I would make a motion, no violation on that particular task because of our ordinance.
Motion by Supervisor Jankowski. Seconded by Mr. Pasternak. Discussion. No further discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We had two,
Yep. Let me take a stretch here for 5 minutes. We've got 2 more complaints, and they're fairly short, so. But we've been here for almost 4 hours. So take a 5-minute break and we'll.
Somebody wonders why it's so long.
You had to reject something because of some poor screenshots. I can read this. Whatever you distributed to them, they could not read. But this is right off the county's website.
I appreciate your comment, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry.
Won't solidify after 4 hours.
That's tough to sit that long.
That sacrum does not want to respond.
You know what, they said they couldn't read that activist cookie thing. They gave some kind of show. I can read it on the county's website. Yeah.
As far as they cite the things in there, they only cite the district things.
No, right.
And the one, the last one is just one item.
Right, yeah, they don't look at evidence. So,
You're the face. Thanks a lot. Well, I'm sorry, I truly am. But it's just. This friendship.
Hey, another thing is, Sarah, and you know, I got the mayor, he says there's a mayor, I know that's a lot of fun.
I'm worried. But anyway, we want this full time, but I can just put it in the water. You gonna go to Wood County?
Is it working?
I don't even plan on retiring. I have no savings. Are you still building? Just for the fans. Kids. I invested in my children.
Yes, no.
Well,
never mind.
Sure, and so, we were just talking about
I think I'm losing my battery, actually.